Have you heard anything about ancient witchcraft used in healing? Fat Sam knows all about witchcraft and those ailments that are better left unseen. The poison lords balance on the brink of death every day. This mysterious witchcraft developed over 2,000 years. Anyone who stood in the way of a true guru always ended badly. As a child, Sam falls victim to the curse of the ninth moon. This did not stop him from becoming the greatest magician. Sometimes there are ignoramuses who call him a simple glutton. Everything will change when he comes down from the mountains and glorifies the healing of poisons. Big Sam finally comes out into the world. The assistant prepared some food for the journey in advance. It's a pity he didn't have a bigger basket. Today was a great day for traveling. By the way, when you have time, it wouldn't hurt to visit the old man. The guy promises not to forget about it. The well-fed medicine man is respected by the local settlers. There was another reason for this attitude towards Sam. This is a famous story about how his assistant was plotted to be killed. 23 elite mercenaries immediately chased the unfortunate man into the mountains. At the very last moment, he was saved by the one to whom Roy now owes his life. It's hard to remember this. People like Tolstoy have a disdainful attitude towards money. This means that gratitude must be expressed differently. For example, you can give him something tasty for the road. However, money wouldn't hurt either. How nice it is to enjoy a hearty lunch and dream about dinner, especially if you don't have to share with anyone. Alas, now he will have 2 young companions. A quiet journey is out of the question. The girls finally find their place, but someone was already in their compartment. That's strange. Shouldn't they be traveling in a separate compartment? Well, they are very tired, so they can be patient. Ruth knows perfectly well why her friend spent so long in the toilet. She was probably hiding there from her annoying boss. Wait, did he really do this to her even after she refused? Very interesting conversation. Ever since the girls arrived at the station, Barry hadn't taken his eyes off her. She didn't do it just for herself. You can open another bag of chips and listen to the rest of the story. Only now does the girl notice another fellow traveler. Ruth reminds them that they booked this compartment for 3 people. It's strange, but he didn't know. Maybe tea eggs can soften the mood? Sam would be happy to share his balls with her. It looks like this fat man has never tasted good food. Beef jerky is much tastier than Sam's stupid testicles. To be honest, the girls found him quite funny. You can even treat him to something else. They decide to get to know him a little better. Daisy is the first to say her name and introduce her friend to Sam. For some time, the guy doesn't understand what they want from him. He admits that he spent almost his entire life on the mountain and never studied anywhere. It's funny, but he doesn't even have any friends. However, he was the best student of the great master. For example, Sam knew how to make excellent medicinal baths. He can also cook something for 2 beauties. At this moment, someone is in a hurry in the compartment. Barry apologizes for disturbing her, but he's been looking everywhere for Daisy. She's not running away from him, is she? The boss felt so lonely without her all day. He keeps telling her the same thing. The girl herself agreed to a close friendship. He reminds that his company has the best social package. Vanessa suddenly declares that listening to the fat man's stories is much more interesting. Besides, he treats everyone to tea eggs. Barry knows he won't get anything today. Brainless idiots! Very soon they will be begging him on their knees, but the price will be higher. Daisy thanks the guy for helping them get rid of the boss. Suddenly they hear someone loudly calling for help. Does Mr. Howard really need a doctor's attention? Everyone else immediately jumps out of their compartments. Their fears are true. The old man really did become ill. It's just not clear what could have happened to him. It's also unclear why food runs out so quickly. Seriously, the old man could have died right on the train. He was barely breathing and only a miracle could save him. It's good that the doctor arrived in time. He demands that everyone move out of the way. Now everything is in the hands of the young doctor and his assistant. It feels like Mr. Howard was poisoned by someone. The old gentleman was the last hope of Ruth and her friends. Everyone understands that the old man won't cope and will die any minute. It is clear who is involved in this poisoning. This is Barry's doing. Otherwise he wouldn't behave like this. Usually the signs of poisoning are completely different. The young doctor had never seen anything like it. It seems he was a little mistaken in his conclusions. The guy reports that the patient has had a severe stroke, and it is time for the relatives to prepare for the funeral. It's hard to come to terms with this. Is there no way to help him? It is a shame that a famous man should meet his death so stupidly. You need to gather your strength and survive the loss. It only remains to be seen whether Mr. Howard could have crossed someone. It's better to say it now if the girls know anything. Daisy is sure that such a kind gentleman had no enemies. Strange, very strange. Sam notices all too familiar signs of dark magic. This guy is ready to do anything to save his master. But the doctor really did everything in his power, unless he tried to heal with magic. The guy slowly puts his hand behind the old man's head. He uses a healing aura that has already saved many lives. First, we need to find out what kind of magic was used by the killer. Dark magic was truly powerful. There must be someone else inside Howard's body. There's some sort of parasite in there, if Sam's right. Daisy is wrong to think that the old man has no enemies. He must have crossed the master of slander. Although in this case, it looks more like an insect manipulator. Since Sam came down from the mountain to do good, why not help? If only the person who ordered the murder didn't interfere with him. Barry didn't like it when someone ruined his plans. He demands that the imposter leave this matter to the professionals. However, this does not stop the fat man from continuing the spell. Just a little more, and he will complete the healing. Then everyone will know about the conspiracy against Howard. At the last moment, he decides to stop the fat man, but he quickly realizes that this is a bad idea. How about meeting the poisonous snake that serves Sam? There were other masters of dark magic on this train. A creature appears right behind the guy, not letting anyone get close. Sam is almost finished. There is very little time left before the healing process is complete. Suddenly, everyone sees a strange insect that emits a magical glow. Now it must penetrate the body of the sick old man. The easiest way to get there is through the nostrils, if there is no other way in. Some people think the guy is only making things worse, but the blush on the patient's face suggests otherwise. This guy still has a lot to learn. Sam advises not to get too close and wait until the process is over. The situation is getting tense with every second. At this moment, a creature sent by the magician crawls out of the nostrils. Sam's flying pet helps drive him out of his body. Now this centipede will not harm anyone. It was the centipede that caused Howard's fatal disease. Does anyone still have doubts about the unknown healer? For Tolstoy, the centipede was just an ordinary insect. However, like all other flying creatures. After such work, his little assistant was a little hungry, but the work was not finished. He decides to give the old man one remedy for quick awakening. Well, it all went like a bad dream. Howard comes to his senses, although he had the hardest time of all. Fortunately, their master will live for some time yet. He still can't understand what happened to him. Ruth explains that it was that funny fat man who saved his life. Mr. Howard can thank him generously. Well, I need to think about it. As a thank you for saving Daisy, there is something she can do. If she shares some fried fish, that would be fine. Barry is going to have to realize that one fat idiot ruined everything. He quickly returns to his compartment. At first glance, there is no one here except the boss himself. But a second later, the one who was the main performer appears next to him. This time they were stopped by a man who possessed magic. The guy offers to surround him when he is alone. We'll have to wait until he eats all the chicken. Mr. Howard asks him not to rush. Otherwise, Sam himself will need help. By the way, he completely forgot to ask about something. What happened to him on the train wasn't a stroke, was it? It's easy to understand, otherwise he would be dead. However, it is not clear who the simple director could cross. The truth will soon be revealed when the criminals repeat the attack. It even resembles the plot of a Western action movie. Sam always liked Western films, although he rarely watched movies. In that case, maybe he has favorite actors? It would be nice to remember at least one name. One actress with a beautiful figure came to mind more often. Although there are a couple of beautiful actresses in Korean cinema. Actually, the question was about something a little different. Only now did the old man realize that the guy was talking about adult films. Before going to bed, he decides to remember the hottest moments of the film. But suddenly he realizes that he doesn't need to think about this now. Mr. Howard treated him to so much today. He simply has to pay him back. We need to find out who helped Boss Barry harm this old man. Today he will have such an opportunity. To do this, he stays with Howard until everything is clear. About an hour later, the first visitor appears. This treacherous man will not back down from his goal. Even after the plan fails, he decides to try again. However, they were already waiting for him here. Hearing footsteps, Mr. Howard quickly turns on the light. He realizes that everything the guy warned him about was true. Yes, it was him! That bastard who is one step away from him is the one who ordered the murder. There is nothing left to hide, but it is still impossible to avoid death. The old man was lucky last time, but luck doesn't come twice. However, he is wrong. Sam can show a couple of tricks with snakes a second time. The craftsman Barry hired should have warned him. The main performer suddenly appears behind you. Now it is clear where the centipede came from in the old man's body. This guy was the one who always did all the dirty work. But this guy didn't spend 18 long years on the mountain in vain. This place was well known to every magician. If only Lewis could stop it all. The boss has already paid them 10 million, which means someone has to die. I'm curious to know which one of them. By the way, it's better to give this money to Sam, because he'll still need it when he's alive. It's time for this bastard to get himself some afterlife coins. After these words, Roger throws his main weapon at the fat man. The toxic centipede can kill with just one touch. The venom of this creature is even more dangerous than that of a snake. Then it would be better to take matters into your own hands. Roger probably wasn't used to this. Sam could fry it up and make a great corn vodka appetizer. Words cannot describe how delicious this is. It crunches like chips. This idiot doesn't know why no one pokes their nose towards the mountain. It's time to find out about it. A second later, he finds himself behind Roger. The guy already regretted 1,000 times that he agreed to this. His centipedes will regret this too. For 18 years, the one who was feared by all these runts lived on the mountain. One of them just ruined his new trousers. I wonder what little Roger is thinking about now. Maybe about his boss pissing himself from fear? Or that his partner didn't budge. It's stupid, because you need to think about what to do with the fat man's poisonous pet. Sam asks his second friend not to be shy and to come closer. Roger is almost finished. Lewis will be next. He turned out to be much more boring, even with that animated hair. It's a pity that Roger didn't have time to stock up on afterlife coins. Mr. Howard can't believe his eyes. In his old age, he finally saw what a true master was capable of. The person who ordered his murder saw the same thing today. Suddenly, Lewis falls to his knees in front of the fat man. He didn't know that Sam would be here and ready to take any punishment. He admits that he is the son of a respected healer. His name immediately seemed familiar. Lewis's father once trained under a master who was close to Sam's teacher. It turns out that they were followers of the same teaching. If so, the guy agrees to spare him. If he leaves at least a couple of centipedes for roasting, this meeting will change a lot in Lewis's life. But right now, there is something that needs to be done. Roger will no longer be able to share the joy of their meeting. He was a good guy, he just had bad luck. Roger discovered the power of magic in himself too early. That's why the boss hired him, assigning him to kill competitors. But what did Mr. Howard do to displease this idiot? It turned out that Barry had his eye on the actresses from his film crew. He wanted the girls to please him, but the director didn't allow it. To what depth can one stoop? He should thank Sam that he's still alive. As for that guy's body, you can throw it away. This is the only thing the fat man entrusts to Lewis. After that, he can be free. Soon Sam was talking sweetly about how he ate a centipede. Such toxins are part of his daily diet. By the way, you can just call him Fatso if the old man doesn't remember his name. But what was more important was who those two guys were. Sam explains that he had many students, among whom were such. If so, who was this guy himself? This is a difficult question. You need to eat first. It's hard to talk about something like this on an empty stomach. In short, he is just an ordinary healer and master of ancient witchcraft. All his life he was taught by an old man, who trained him on a high mountain. From early childhood he was accustomed to seeing poisonous creatures around him. Among them were poisonous spiders as well as the most dangerous snakes in the world. By the way, there were also quite a lot of poisonous mushrooms. Since then, fried centipedes have become a part of his diet. But right now, Sam had no time for food, as strange as it might seem. He saw the teacher near the hut and decided to test his strength. The old man doesn't suspect anything yet, but the fat man is already ready for battle. In one leap, the boy catches up with his grumpy master. At the last moment, it becomes clear that Sam was the victim here. Logan didn't even have to bother tossing it aside. He's doing pretty well for his age, but training is in full swing. The guy decides to try again, only this time it will be more serious. It's strange. What was he counting on? There could have been nothing but a solid blow to his corpulent body. He was lucky that his bones remained intact. Next time the counterattack may be much more painful. However, the master admits that he has managed to improve his technique. But is this why Teacher Logan called him to his place? By the way, this is the second time in a couple of minutes that the master has called him a glutton, although it was Logan who once lured him to the mountain with his sweets. Yes, that is true. However, it was the teacher who helped lift the curse of the ninth moon from him. During the 18 years he spent here, he was able to become much stronger. And besides, this was the will of Sam's parents. This means that there is no point in blaming the old man for the deception with the sweets. True, there was something that could be recalled. We are talking about the case when a cunning old man took a young girl for examination, and he left her husband with a whole range of male diseases with the student. Logan asks him not to stir up the past and get to the main topic. As he remembers, the curse of the ninth moon marked the death of Sam, but in the end, he survived, becoming the greatest master of magic. For years, Logan had been holding back the curse, but now Sam had reached the peak. This means that he will have to cope on his own from now on. He will be able to completely get rid of the curse by collecting everything that is in the scroll. The fat man has a whole month to master new techniques. First of all, you need to break your cocoon and become a butterfly. Sam interrupts him, reminding him of the 3 scrolls that the old man for some reason did not give him. But is he ready to move on to learning the most complex techniques? If he can truly master them, the boy will become the master of fortune. It's worth taking a closer look at the list of techniques in the scroll. What is this? The scroll contains only the quintessence of pure jade. How then will he be able to master all the remaining techniques in a month? If he had read carefully, he would have seen his parents' address. Today he should pack his things and get down from this mountain. Logan taught him everything he knew, and now a new path begins. There is a wonderful saying among the people. It says that all good things come to an end sooner or later. For 18 years, Logan had taught him magic, but today was his last lesson. He asks to visit his master when he has time. However, for 18 years, he never tasted the local game. This shameless glutton thinks only about food. Even the feathered inhabitants were surprised by such impudence. Well, the day has come when he must say goodbye to home. The local game was glad to have lived to see this day. And yet it's a little sad to say goodbye to this good fellow. Soon he will arrive at the station, where the guy is already being met. Tony was the person he had a lot in common with. It's just strange that Sam hasn't shown up yet. He was supposed to arrive at exactly 12 and was an hour late. Here he is! Finally, Tony will be able to hug his old friend. He missed him so much that he could crush the fat man in his arms. However, there was one more meeting in store for Tony himself. It seems like all the stars aligned quite well today. Sam doesn't yet know how Tony met the old man. It was a bit of a sad story. In short, the guy was his granddaughter's attending physician. The professor's granddaughter has a very rare disease that could lead to the worst. It is true what they say, that only heaven decides the destinies of men. All he could give her was help in finding medicine and good doctors. What can I say? Everyone has their own destiny. However, Sam never believed in fate. He intends to find out more about this girl's illness. And now I need to recover a little after so many years of living in the mountains. Everything has changed so much here. There were modern buildings everywhere that I wanted to take a closer look at. By the way, the house to the left of them looked a lot like giant underpants. Tony explains that the main television building is located there. Still, I wonder what it's like for people to live inside giant pants. This is something to think about a little later. Now he is more attracted to Tony's phone, which itself shows the way. This thing is called a navigator, and Sam will have exactly the same one. It's hard to be someone who just came down from the mountains today. It would be funny to see old Logan when he first saw the city. Now it is important to do the most important thing. Tony reminds them that they will be home very soon. Damn, it's been years since Sam saw his parents. He doubts whether he will be able to behave properly when meeting. This will be known very soon. 10 minutes later, they arrive in the area where the parental home is located. Well, now we can take the final step. If the guy has the courage to do it, now he seems to be looking at his distant past. But instead, it's better to just press the bell. After all, Sam is not a child anymore and can behave differently. Well, it's easy for him to talk about it. The guy doesn't even know what to tell his parents in such cases. Maybe tell them about life in the mountains? That's right, the conversation should start with this. However, his grand plan immediately changed. As soon as Sam saw him for the first time in so many years of separation. Yes, he has aged a lot during this time. Old Rupert didn't even recognize his son at first. Taking a closer look, he suddenly realizes what kind of guest was on the threshold. His son is back! Rupert immediately starts asking questions about how the guy lived in the mountains. In fact, the old man was also a little confused in the first minutes. But there was one person in the house who was indifferent to all these formalities. Dorothy just wanted to hug her returning boy. She never knew how to hold back her tears at such moments. It's nice to see a family reunited after a long separation. The fat man forgets about food even for a second. There are things that are much more important than a delicious bun and roast game. Perhaps this is the most important thing in life. Family, that's what he finds today, returning to his home. You can watch this touching scene endlessly. However, not everyone will agree with this. For example, his sister was not at all pleased with her brother's arrival. Moreover, she immediately starts being rude to him. Dorothy asks her daughter to calm down and greet her brother properly. These two will have to believe that they have been related all their lives. But life turned out differently for everyone. Beatrice decides to take a closer look at her fat brother. You can start with a short conversation after he has chewed and swallowed his food. The only important thing is to distract him in time. She wants to show Sam her room, which is on the second floor. It's a shame, but I'll have to give up food for a while. Quicker! Just a couple of stairs and they will find themselves in one cozy place. The guy probably expected to see a modest girl's room. But his sister was never a modest girl. He immediately notices skulls and other unusual objects. The underwear was quite ordinary, although it could do with a little cleaning. Surprisingly, there was even room for a terrarium in Beatrice's room. Sam saw snakes like this every day, but the strange thing was that the girls liked it. No, she was not an ordinary girl. But the snakes were quite ordinary. Maybe we should fry them? Suddenly, another cute 8-legged creature appears in her hand. I had to spend a lot of money to buy this baby. Usually anyone who sees a spider runs as far away as possible. Any of her friends would have long since passed out from fear. Even Beatrice herself was frightened when she saw the spider on her brother's face. She apologizes for accidentally letting go of her pet. True, the spider was still small and could not cause any harm. This box contains something that can really scare you. Does she really want to see this? The girl admits that she is considered the bravest in her class. Well, then it's worth testing her courage for strength. At the bottom of the box, something is already waiting for her that can really perk her up. Sam likes the fattest of all the pets. He invites his sister to choose any of them to her taste. By the way, they are poisonous, and you can accidentally go to the next world. It would have been better if he hadn't said those words, because the girl was already scared. The Black Widow was much larger than her tiny spider. This was the most interesting specimen. You could even touch it with your hands. Beatrice had never seen such huge spiders before. These creatures only attack when they are hungry or feel threatened. It's a shame, but her mother still wouldn't have allowed her to have a Black Widow. It took a long time to choose the largest spider when Sam caught it in the cave. In the end, 2 spiders even bit him on the hand. One of them died from Sam's own poison, and he roasted the other one for dinner. By the way, they are much smarter than they may seem at first glance. For example, Sam taught him to follow commands like a trained dog. Salute. Now, Beatrice realized how wrong she had been about her brother. Besides training spiders, your brother probably knows how to drive a car very well. Sam saw Tony do it, so he could do it too. At least it's a lot easier than taming Black Widow. Black Widow will go with them. In his fantasies, Sam already sees himself as the real king of the track. Then he simply had to go to the races with her tonight. There was no such agreement. At the abandoned racetrack, everything was ready for racing. In such competitions, only speed mattered. What matters is how confident you are in yourself and your car. Everyone wanted to win, but only a few succeeded. Beatrice hoped that her brother was destined to become the new king, unless she made a mistake in choosing her favorite. Otherwise, instead of triumph, she will end up with complete failure. Now it all depends on the fat man. After a few seconds, she stops abruptly near the starting point. The local boys hadn't seen Beatrice in such a mood for a long time. It feels like she wants to take revenge after her last failure. Her friend reminds her that Beatrice is a little late today. Racers don't welcome this. The main thing is where that bastard Chuck is now. Tina saw him near the stands with some new driver. They say he brought a true professional into the underground world. However, the girl considers only Sam to be the true king of the track. It was that fat guy behind her who was the new hope for victory. A stupid smile and tasteless style are not worth paying attention to. Tina begins to realize that this is a bad idea. Is he sure he knows how to drive? At this moment, their main competitor in business appears nearby. Chuck brought with him not only the king, but also 2 queens of the track. He always considered himself a real cowboy, damn it. Which can't be said about this plump guy. Actually, Chuck hoped that she was tired of losing a long time ago. But Beatrice thinks that this dog was just lucky. Today she prepared like an adult, and now he will be convinced of it. Her suitcase was filled to the brim with fresh banknotes. It is worth admitting that such high rates do not happen every day. The evening is no longer boring. The little one decided to defeat him. But what will she offer as a trump card? Just don't tell me that the reason for her courage is this guy. Sam didn't like it when people looked at him like that. Tina hopes that her friend's premonition will not fail her. Otherwise, they will definitely not avoid disgrace throughout the city. Today, everything depended only on my brother and his driving skills. This guy never seems to doubt his success. Bold, very bold. Although sometimes this courage leads to a sad end. For the sake of such an occasion, Chuck even agrees to contribute another 300,000. If he wins, Beatrice will take home 3.5 million. But Sam wants to add something else. They completely forgot to ask about his own rate. The crowd immediately burst into laughter at this newcomer. Chuck decides that he just got scared at the last moment before the start. Actually, it's something else. He decides to add a few more bills to the prize fund. This was the last money Sam had in his pocket. The guy is so confident of victory that he puts everything on the line. Fat bastard! It's funny that the king of the track couldn't find a bigger bet than this. The main thing, however, is whether he is as good behind the wheel of a racing car. If not, this whole circus will be remembered after the competition is over. Big boys like big stakes. No one but these two would dare to play for high stakes. They will remember this evening for a long time. True, Hugh acts as if he's out for an evening jog. You have to look hard to find such an impudent person. However, everything was fine, except for the fact that the car didn't move. Beatrice begins to realize that things are much worse. Sam probably only drove manual cars before and never drove automatics. She quickly begins to teach him how to drive a sports car. This should have been taken care of before they placed their bet. There is no point in backing up now. It doesn't matter that there is a false start for other riders. If there are no rules, then there is no need to wait for these idiots. Hugh becomes second on the track without even having time to press the gas pedal. But for a professional, it is not a problem to overtake a couple of amateurs. He still can't understand what they saw in this fat man. After the next turn, he will be able to move far ahead. It wasn't difficult, and Hugh quickly catches up with the red car. I just hope I don't fall asleep at the wheel with such boring races. He's seen a lot of noobs in his life, but this is the first time he's met one like this. But it would have been better if he had looked ahead when approaching the turn. Then his friends wouldn't look like complete idiots. Chuck doesn't know anything yet, that's why he's acting so cheerful. His friend had already noticed that something was wrong with their king of the track. However, the same is true for the cars of his competitors. He was not mistaken in deciding that this evening would be remembered by everyone for a long time. Sam barely managed to roll his wrecked car to the finish line. His sister didn't have to bother, because Beatrice was the main sponsor. As a result, their car crosses the finish line first. It turns out they won. Sam is already in a hurry to collect his winnings, which he honestly deserved. Will someone explain to Chuck how this is possible? It turned out that the fat man drove straight through all the turns and crashed into Hugh. He nearly killed him when he cut him off on the last turn. By driving like this, he broke the rules and therefore cannot be a winner. Now Chuck will take their money to restore his car. It is clear that Beatrice does not agree with this and demands that her winnings be given back. Just don't get nervous. Besides the racers, there were other professionals there. And if Beatrice and her brother don't want to become chops, it's better to change their tone. Although he can give the fat guy a chance to fight if he wants. Big races could turn into big fights. She decides to call the police before it's too late. That's it. Now it's definitely too late. Tina had been pretending to be her friend all this time, while secretly working for Chuck. You have to believe that people change quickly because of money. However, if the cops arrive in time, they will only stumble upon 2 corpses. But if Beatrice was still a virgin, everything could be fixed. Chuck promises to forgive her fat brother if she is gentle with him. As gentle as her ex-girlfriend. It would be better if both girlfriends showed affection to him at once. Only Chuck forgot to ask her older brother's permission. Such forgetfulness usually leads to broken fingers. Oops, it broke. It's worth thanking Sam that only one of the 10 fingers was injured. The guys had never seen such impudence before. It's time to show them what they teach in the mountains. This bastard laughed at the fat man louder than anyone else. However, all the other bastards laughed no less. But as they say, the last one laughs best. The racing was great. Now you can stretch the muscles hidden under the layer of fat a little. Only from the outside did the plump, healthy man seem clumsy. In fact, none of them could keep track of him. It took less than a minute to deal with the guys. For some time, some still try to call for help. Until the voice of the last daredevil dies down after the blow. Looks like that asshole Chuck wanted to tell him something. Oh yeah, we were talking about the money Sam earned from winning the races. And this money is in the wrong pocket. Chuck claims that he doesn't have $1 on him. For that matter, Sam has something else in his pocket. This will not make him rich, no matter how much the fat man wishes it would. However, it can easily make Chuck dead and this centipede full. Suddenly, Chuck changes his mind to a more balanced one. He quickly finds all the money that was accidentally lost a minute ago. To be precise, it's best to count each bill while they're still here. Beatrice happily agrees to help with this. It took a lot of time to calculate the winnings. Now the girl is sure that there are exactly $3.5 million in the bag. This will be enough for the police to detain them. The officer orders his guys to search everything here thoroughly. There won't be any problems with this, especially since the suspects haven't had time to escape. At the last moment, Sam manages to notice them, but it was too late. These two would not have escaped anyway, because the racetrack was blocked off from all sides. For the first time, they managed to arrest the ringleader of underground racing. However, the contraband was never discovered. Besides, there was no one left except the racers themselves and the young girls. The details can be thought out later. The officer still has time. In the meantime, he orders that everyone who took part in the races be taken away. Soon the entire company is delivered to the nearest department. The guys will have to wait in the corridor for a while, until the officers interrogate the main person their captain needs. It's strange, but Sam becomes such a suspect. It is also strange that there were no women among the local officers. Women in police uniforms look terribly seductive. At this point, one of them asks Sam's gender. He almost named the female gender as his own. Of course, Sam was a male, he just misspoke. The policeman advises him to be less nervous and tell everything. Actually, he has a bad memory, and the guy doesn't remember anything at all. Well, that answer would be quite acceptable for the record. Actually, they were just racing, and those guys started a fight. But it looks as if it was the fat man who started the quarrel. It was because of the stolen money that he started the altercation. Sam tries to explain that the money belongs to his sister. The big guy Chuck decided to take them for himself, realizing that they would not be able to respond. The officer does not believe this brazen lie. He promises to report the results of the investigation a little later. Now the guy is being fined and will be detained for 2 days. Just don't lie that he never got behind the wheel of a racing car. If it was that girl, they could arrest her instead of Sam. The guy asks to leave his sister alone and double-check everything. Everything has already been double-checked 1,000 times. It's time to put bracelets on him and take him to the cell. He will remain here in this form for 2 days until everything is revealed. The captain got really carried away while interrogating one idiot. Did he really gather such a large force to arrest the racers? If he lets Charlie go right now, the smugglers will cut off his head. Charlie asks him to calm down and not say stupid things. For providing false information, he faces only 48 hours of arrest. This is too little to intimidate the old businessman. After hearing the conversation, Sam realizes that the bastard is right. However, there was one thing Charlie definitely didn't know. He offers a deal in which information will be exchanged for freedom. The guy promises to make Charlie tell everything he knows. It's strange how he managed to loosen his tongue. However, Captain Niels is ready to do anything to sort this matter out. The young officer asks for 1 minute. You just need to speak faster and not make him even more angry. Very soon, Sam got his way. The captain really believed that the guy could arrange everything. Charlie himself will tell about each of his crimes in all details. Niels orders the handcuffs to be removed. He personally opens the door to the interrogation room, letting the guy in. Now nothing will stop him from fulfilling the main condition of the deal. An unexpected meeting, isn't it? This fat guy acts like he's a cop himself. He warns that if Charlie doesn't testify, he'll be in trouble. You definitely shouldn't start a conversation in that tone with the gang leader. Otherwise, he'll regret it when Charlie is released. Well, this ugly clown brought trouble on himself. It will hurt a little, but no more than a light injection. True, the injection was delivered directly to the head, and this changed the matter a little. He's probably in a lot of pain right now, but Charlie is to blame for this. Such interrogation methods are not permitted in official regulations. On the other hand, Sam doesn't have to follow these instructions. He wants to know about all the evil deeds Charlie has done in this world. It's better to tell everything from the very beginning to the present day. There is no doubt that today the scumbag confesses to every crime. Otherwise, he will go through all the circles of hell. And forever and ever he will not be able to be reborn on Earth. The hellish carousel will continue until the last day of the universe. Well, is he now ready to repent of his sins? Now Charlie is ready to repent for all people on Earth at once. However, for the record, only his personal sins will be enough. The captain's assistant quickly wrote down every word of his testimony. He told absolutely everything that he could remember. For example, when he was still a boy, Charlie stole 10 coins from the house. The only question is how the fat man managed to get him to talk. Sam admits that he told the whole truth and will now be returned. With a snap of his fingers, Charlie returns to the world of the living. This minute of his life is called happiness. Captain Neal's orders to move out immediately. But did he forget about their agreement with the fat man? Of course not. Which means he should rest a little in the next room. Actually, he was planning on going home and having a big dinner. 3 hours later, Sam actually falls asleep at the station. He dreams of his native mountain meadows that smell like meat salad. He was not destined to experience their aroma anyway. Captain Neal's is already here and wants to talk to the hero. He asks him not to get up from the couch. The guy deserves a rest. He promises a reward for help in solving a complex case. Even members of the government were aware of this. Only Neal's asks to tell what the hell he did to Charlie. Sam confides in the Finger of Oblivion, which helped interrogate the criminal. There was also a silver needle, but it's better not to talk about that. Then he should know what Captain Neal's has been doing all his life. These two eyes have seen everything related to monstrous crimes. Opposite him, he clearly sees a liar, and his eyes do not deceive him. It's strange that after expressing gratitude, Neal's began to accuse him again. The guy should be told everything about the acupuncture method. Sam believes that acupuncture was just a Chinese medicine gimmick. The needle in his hand was laced with poison, and his method of operation was much more serious. In that case, what poison was the needle laced with? This question is not so easy to answer. If you remember, he mixed several poisons of the most dangerous creatures at once. The captain doesn't believe that a simple guy could get hold of so many poisons. However, he knew so much about it that you have to believe it. By the way, the method was good at seducing women and Neal's might get something. Now it is clear that there is nothing more to talk about with the fat man. The captain orders him to be taken outside and sent to hell. Here it is, the smell of freedom. As he leaves the police station, the guy is met by his relatives. And at home, a delicious dinner awaits him, which was a pleasant bonus. The whole time his son spent at the police station, the old man was restless. Oh, and Dorothy was scared by her 2 mischievous children. Sam convinces his mother that he was treated like an important guest at the station. Of course, he kept silent about the Finger of Oblivion during Charlie's interrogation. Now it's time to enjoy your victory. A little more and they will see the full amount of winnings in the races. There were almost 4.5 million in cash in the suitcases. Sam decides to give all this money to his sister. But if you divide them in half, there will be enough for everyone. The boy believes that an older brother is obliged to take care of his sister first. Even from afar, the old man heard their argument. He offers to give him the money for safekeeping since they couldn't come to an agreement. But this issue will be decided tomorrow, and now it's time to sleep. They should have been quieter. It is true what they say. In a dispute between two, the third wins. The next day the weather was extremely nasty. The whole way I just wanted to sleep and eat. By the way, for some reason Tony took him to the hospital instead of the university. He explains that the problem is with the same old man whose granddaughter he is treating. Tony did everything he could and now only Sam can help the girl. Saving her life is more important than any academic activity. Soon they find themselves in the room where the patient is being kept. There was medical equipment and a lot of different medicines everywhere. The trouble is, none of this helped her. It hurts to look at a girl who was recently happy. And now there was deathly silence in her room around the clock. Only the grandfather's lamentations interrupted this eerie silence. Tony asks to give him the lab sheet, X-ray, and all her tests. However, Sam doesn't need anything for treatment except some information. The old man is ready to tell anything, just to save his granddaughter's life. The guy wants to know the truth about whether the symptoms of the disease are similar to pregnancy. Howard quickly replies that that's exactly what he thought at first. This condition lasted for a year, and then gave way to nosebleeds. She frequently lost consciousness, and then began to have convulsions and hallucinations. In that case, Sam had an idea. He honestly admits that such a disease is very difficult to cure. If Tony could, he would have done it long ago. Tony begs his friend to try another treatment. First, he must know that a caterpillar has settled inside the girl. The patient became like a shell, like the one a hermit crab has. Oddly enough, Tony thinks all this is a fantasy for the feeble-minded. At that moment, someone entered the room. It's time to take your medication if they've already completed the examination. It turns out that only Teacher Logan can save this girl's life, although Tony had placed his hopes on Sam until the very last moment. This nurse was too slow in placing the medications. Even when leaving the ward, she behaved suspiciously. This cannot be a simple coincidence. And yet Sam decides to take on the treatment himself. The procedure requires nothing more than his box of things. When he leaves, the old man asks where they met. One of the adult masters addressed the fat man as a mentor. But why? Tony doesn't immediately find what to say to this. We can start with the fact that their common teacher, Logan, is already 120 years old. Usually the lives of healers are either short or too long. In this sense, Logan was very lucky. Before meeting Sam, Master Logan had no students. At that time, Tony was still studying to become a doctor and worked part-time at the hospital. In order to protect Sam, Old Man Logan wanted to find a good doctor. The choice fell on Tony. So he quickly tied him up and dragged him to his mountain. Logan threatened to poison the boy if he tried to escape. The life of a young doctor was turned upside down. Everything that surrounded Tony seemed to want to kill him. But besides the dangers, there were many priceless poisons and medicines there. These ingredients are impossible to obtain anywhere else. Having seen the workshop with his own eyes, he realized that he would stay here for a long time. However, there was another reason that held the guy back. Tony had become so accustomed to the fat man that it was difficult to leave him. You could say he saw him grow up every day. Tony returned back only when Sam was 7 years old. Logan decided to accept him as a student after seeing the boy's efforts. And so it happened that Sam became the first and Tony the second disciple of the healer. Now Howard wants to understand what happened to the other students. Tony knows almost nothing about the third and fourth students. The fifth student, named Graham, became the most famous guru of magic. In those parts, magicians and healers are highly respected. Graham opened his own school. He managed to teach more than 100 students in just a few years. But despite his strength, he was much weaker than Master Logan. He was unhappy with this all his life. One day he brings his disciples to the mountain to attack the master. They quickly surround the mountain hut from all sides. It is on this day that the master forbids Fat Sam to eat the roe deer. Those who encountered Hungry Sam were very unlucky. Some of the survivors will remember this for the rest of their lives. The enraged fat man personally scattered more than 30 people. They didn't have time to use any of their skills. The golden silkworm got rid of all the other guests of the hut. Those who could still stand on their feet chose to flee from there. It was the last day of Graham's school's existence. Graham himself begged for mercy on his knees for a long time. Yes, the fifth student was the most mischievous of them all. They chatted for a while, forgetting why they came to the hospital. Sam came back very quickly and they still have a lot of time. Tony decides it would be best to call a nurse to help. However, help arrived much earlier. We are not talking about a simple nurse at all. Teacher Logan himself showed up to treat the patient, deciding to take it upon himself. Tony immediately introduced him to Old Howard as the best healer in the world. Sam didn't think they would meet so quickly, but the matter was urgent, because the girl's life was counted down to days. According to the guy, before the disease the girl ate a wild amarloch, and the disease was caused by parasites in her body. But in some things he was clearly wrong. At least, that's what another doctor at the hospital thinks. He asks not to jump to conclusions. Bobby didn't like it when witch doctors tried to heal people with stupid spells. Tony reminds that no one asked Bobby's opinion. He will definitely be invited when needed. However, there was a patient from their hospital here, which meant it was his business too. Besides, Tony still hasn't been able to cure the girl. If the worst happens to her, the entire hospital will be held responsible. I wonder what Tony himself thinks about this. He says he is ready to take responsibility no matter the outcome. Bobby is not relenting and asks to tell more about the new treatment method. In all his years of work, he had never heard of this guy's method. Edmund explains that there are fleas that live inside the body, not outside. There are several references in Chinese medicine to the diseases they cause. The girl could swim in a river where such fleas lived. She may have even eaten the carp as they feed on river mud. Howard confirms that his granddaughter became ill after a trip to the reservoir. Together with the boys, they caught fish and cooked it on the same shore. However, her friends were also expected to fall ill after the hike. This fact alone shatters Sam's stupid assumption. The rule of probability came into play here, meaning that the other guys were just lucky. If Bobby doesn't understand complex diseases, he might as well just shut up. In response, the doctor demands that he choose his words, or better yet, leave the room altogether. Even if he is right, how is Sam going to treat the patient? He himself said that he could cure her in a couple of minutes. Sam is going to poison the parasite right in the body of its host. In other words, you need to pump the girl's body with a special poison. Unfortunately, there is simply no other treatment method. Such an idiotic statement completely drives the doctor crazy. Sam reminds that no one has heard any other suggestions from Bobby yet. From the very beginning, he only boiled with anger and did nothing useful. If Tony agrees to give him a chance, he will start treatment right now. Without even thinking, he agrees and is ready to take on all the risks. All that remains is to ask a relative for permission to carry out the procedure. Howard makes the right decision. Even if Sam doesn't cure her, he'll still sue the hospital. There is no need to worry so much. The boy learned to treat such minor illnesses when he was only 12 years old. Such boldness seemed too strange to Edmund. We are talking about a problem of the entire planet. Could he really solve it? He trained his skills on boars, so no one heard about it. In that case, he can be considered a veterinarian who is not allowed to treat people. Suddenly, the guy opens the very box that he brought from the car. Edmund might have expected anything but this. A snake-like hissing sound was heard from inside the wooden box. Besides snakes, there were other forest inhabitants. It feels like he decided to make a terrarium right in the hospital ward. This guy looked more like a psychopath than a serious doctor. Bobby hasn't seen Black Widow yet. Then he would have definitely run away from here. Sam picks up the poisonous centipede with his bare hands, just like he would a normal worm. Just what you need. It's a shame they didn't taste it after a good grilling. However, you can eat it raw, you just need to tear it apart. That was enough to get rid of Bobby. The poor guy vomited on the threshold of the ward when he saw the torn-apart centipede. Tony asks his friend not to play the fool and not to scare the doctors. There was something else in the wooden box that could surprise. Silver Sky Serpent was Fat Sam's finest specimen. Until this point, Edmund had only seen such things in medical books. Usually the Sky Serpent wakes up only when it is very hungry. He only needs to bite the patient lightly and the job is done. A snake can easily arrange this. He bites the sick girl on the hand on the orders of his master. It seems as if Sam is controlling the snake like a circus animal. Needles appear in his hands to do the main thing with their help. Snake bites will not be enough if the procedure is not completed correctly. Sam begins to pierce her body with needles where the Sky Serpent bit her. The needles had magical properties and a healing effect. It points out exactly where to bite next. Excellent. His pet immediately carries out the guy's command. He decides to stick 3 needles into one place at once. It looks like old Edmund still has a lot to learn in this life. Sam could give a few lessons for this case, but now it is more important to complete the acupuncture procedure. Tony had never heard of the wind calming technique. This ancient acupuncture technique was created specifically for the treatment of poisoning. The poison is concentrated in one point to prevent it from spreading throughout the body. From the outside, this doesn't look like anything unusual. However, only about 30 people around the world knew about this method. The fat man possessed a technique that almost no one in the world could replicate. Among all the vital points on the body, at least 2 points need to be blocked. The difficulty is in finding the right angle at which the needle will enter the body. Edmund asks what stage of the procedure Sam is performing. Now he must change areas without stopping to keep the poison circulating in his body. It is important not to make a mistake in calculating the force, otherwise the needle will penetrate too deeply. It took a lot of effort before Sam got the hang of this method. He studied many wolves on the mountain, who became his first patients. After the wolves, the wild boars came into play, and now it's people's turn. This girl will be a great finale to learning the method. The old man needs to be patient and trust the guy. And here is the first flea that was driven out of the patient's body. Together with other fleas, it became the cause of her illness. A pill appears in the guy's hands that will secure his success. He had already used 2 pills since coming down from the mountain. This was the 3rd one, but it was worth it. Edmund offers him a good price for a batch of such pills. Pills that drive out evil cannot be bought in a regular pharmacy. In fact, Sam has very few magic pills left. He gives it away for free, but can only give 1 piece. This is quite enough to make old Edmund happy. Perhaps the golden needles could also be useful to him in his treatment. Unlike the pills, there were plenty of such needles. He offers to give them away for free, but Edmund refuses the gift. Well, now all that remains is to prescribe the girl a diet for a quick recovery. Edmund can definitely handle such a simple task. It's hard to believe, but the fat man taught himself the technique of acupuncture. He would have waited 1,000 years if he had decided to learn this from Logan. He was always too lazy, and even Sam had to cook food. All this time, Bobby is eavesdropping on their conversation at the door. Howard allowed the young brat to treat his granddaughter, refusing medical help. He decides to remind everyone about himself a little later, when everything has calmed down. The next day, something amazing happens at Sam's family estate. The magic of summoning creatures had already completely enveloped his room. No living creature could resist this call. With her help, Sam absorbs powers that people do not naturally possess. He mentally commands the creatures to voluntarily give up their power. Creatures are easily hypnotized by him. They crawl out of the wooden box, following the fat man's command. A minute later, the snakes are very close. For any other person, such closeness could be fatal. Poisonous centipedes also crawl into his room. From the outside, it seemed as if the dark spirit itself had been summoned to this place. But this is far from the end. The real ritual only began when they began to cover his body. Spiders are also susceptible to magic. At some point, the centipedes almost completely cover their faces. In the wild, representatives of different species compete with each other. But now they exist in a single bundle, biting through his flesh. Sam wasn't lying when he said he had many more Black Widows in his collection. He absorbs their power along with the poison, and then uses it to heal. In one point, it concentrates the poison of the most dangerous creatures. Some snakes have already lost their natural weapons. Now their main power belongs to one person. You can bite as much as you like, but there is not a drop of poison left in their bodies. It's time to crawl back into our holes. They are no longer needed. Even after 18 years of training, he has to work again. Suddenly, he remembers that today he needs to perform more than just a ritual. The cunning old man handed him the damn scroll before leaving. Finding the quintessence of pure jade was at the top of the to-do list. At this moment, his mother loudly asks him to meet Dr. Tony. It's strange that the guy decided to come to him on his day off. Tony explains that they need to meet with Sam's new supervisor. The table at the cafe has already been booked, so the fat man won't be left without lunch. Dorothy could not let her son go without money. She holds out her card, which is enough to pay for lunch. It's awkward to put everything on Tony's shoulders, because the guy has already done a lot. It will be great if this meeting is useful. Soon they are heading to meet with the manager. Mom doesn't yet know that her fat man hasn't needed money for a long time. There was 100,000 in cash packed into the back seat after the race. Along with them, he had one bank card at his disposal. A quick little fellow. He suggested splitting it in half. There were no problems with money. He can also easily give the map to Tony if he needs it. Damn it, since when did he become so generous? Oh no! They were too distracted by the conversation to notice the random passerby. Tony is still trying to brake sharply. But judging by the loud bang, it was already too late. The poor guy couldn't run to the side in time and was now lying on the asphalt. He loudly calls for a doctor, but it was the doctor who hit him on the road. Tony realizes that this scoundrel is just trying to earn compensation. He is a very smart doctor. This time the sly man didn't run into those who easily follow the lead of scammers. The doctor can examine him right now and even make a rough diagnosis. In response, the guy demands that they not come closer, otherwise he will call the cops. Usually real victims don't behave like that. This idiot is playing with death, not knowing that death is already standing behind him. It's clear as day that he threw himself under the wheels of the car. Sam warns that the guy has a bad aura and it's best to stay away from him. It's easier to pay off the scoundrel, because money won't help him anyway. He was right, so Tony throws him everything he had in his pocket. It's a lousy feeling, but it's better to listen to the fat brother's advice. Finally, the guy advises them to be more careful and watch the road. Soon they continue on their way, although Tony still cannot calm down. Sam suggests we just take a look at how this bastard works. When he notices the car, the guy seems to accidentally find himself on the road. Then he falls on the roadway, although the road there is perfectly flat. And then he just waits for the money to end up in his pocket. However, the driver of this van spent the whole night behind the wheel. He doesn't notice the guy and continues to increase his speed. It is not difficult to understand what this threatens for all lovers of easy money. He definitely won't be able to spend the money Tony gave him. His working day ends with an easy and quick death. He called for his own death, but now it was time for them to get back to business. By the way, Sam will be able to rise one more level if he's lucky. Teacher Logan has an excellent successor. Now it's time for a little snack. A fat man could eat all the game cooked in this cafe by himself. Arriving at the place, he immediately smells the pleasant smell of restaurant food. Girls in folk costumes easily lure guests inside. They must get very tired carrying big pots on their heads. But besides the pots, they had something else quite large. What's more important is whether the food here is tasty. It smells nice, but the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen. Her curls were so close to her face that they almost touched Sam. Tony loudly tells someone about the restaurant's club card. I wonder who he tells about this to. The fat man has been gone for a long time, and now his head is occupied with something else. He quickly camouflages himself in the bushes, tracking down this stranger. Is this what love at first sight looks like? Usually the girl is invited to a restaurant that is nearby. The fat man chooses the difficult path of acquaintance, hiding in the bushes. He manages to get her attention, but it's unlikely to work. Girls don't like being spied on and sneaked up on from behind, especially if secret admirers prefer to wear panties on their heads. At least she remembered him for something. Tony has been waiting for him at the table for a long time with another gentleman. If he had to go to the toilet, he could have returned a long time ago. I even had to ask the local workers for help. After a long wait, another guest arrives in his place. Or rather a guest. It was a foreign exchange student with the beautiful name Natalie. Frederick knows that she came here by special invitation. The young doctor was the first person with whom it was important for her to make acquaintance. She has been interested in Chinese medicine since childhood, and has already achieved a lot. Tony was glad that such a young person had such deep knowledge. He hopes Natalie has a great time. In fact, everything was fine until today's meeting with one fat man. He followed her closely all the time, and for some reason hid in the bushes. In the end, he never let her enjoy the local color. Instead, I had to look at the fat man's own coloring. The girl understands that her acquaintance with Sam is not over yet. Her angry screams can be heard even at the other end of the restaurant. It was he who ruined her first walk around the city. The guy is trying to understand what he did wrong and what caused this anger. Now I'll have to come up with some nonsense to somehow justify my friend. First, you need to say a few sweet words to him. This is usually how perverts who follow lonely girls behave. Not only did he make a laughing stock of himself by spying, he also brought shame on everyone else. What will they think of them now at the institute where Natalie studies? Tony asks his old friend to do some work with Sam. Frederick was ready to help with this, because he was indebted to the young doctor. It is immediately obvious that the fat man can become a capable student. Now Natalie understood everything about local customs. Instead of punishing him, they decided to let him get away with it. It turns out that she complained to them about this fat savage in vain. Frederick is still trying to bring her to her senses and not say too much. But the student does not calm down, accusing everyone of breaking the law. Tony turns a blind eye to this so unceremoniously that he himself looks like a savage. The guy tries to explain that she got it all wrong. However, Natalie had already managed to understand that he got his position thanks to his connections. Vile little people, that's what she considers them to be now. Just a minute, everyone needs to calm down. First, Sam must explain why he followed her on the street. It's not that he was some kind of crazy pervert. He really likes Natalie. It's called love at first sight. He speaks so sincerely that even Tony believed him for a second. Sam knows about his shortcomings, but besides them, he has many advantages. He decides to tell one incident from the past. When he was 4 years old, the boy got carried away playing and got lost in the night forest. Left there all alone, Sam had already decided that this was the end. As luck would have it, a panther, which had gone out for a night hunt, followed him. She jumped out of the bushes so quickly that the boy didn't have time to take a step. At the moment of her final jump, her whole life flashed before her eyes. To this day, this terrible scene haunts him at night. Tony became a real angel who came down to him from heaven. He fought the panther as if he was no match for her. The skinny and weak bespectacled guy behaved cooler than the hero from the movie. He ended up beating the panther half to death while protecting the boy. Despite its huge fangs, the panther faced an equal opponent. Without retreating a single step, Tony stood on his feet until the last second. It was only through his own courage that he managed to endure it. When Teacher Logan appeared in that place, Tony immediately lost consciousness. We had to give him medicinal infusions for 3 days. The boy developed a terrible fever and often became delirious at night. Sam was sure that his savior would die any day now. The main thing is what he was saying while he was unconscious. He demanded that Sam run away from here quickly, promising to deal with the panther. This courage was the reason why Logan took him on as an apprentice, although Tony always believed that he was simply a very talented healer. Having waited until the end of the story, Natalie wants to understand what all this is about. Sam means that Tony has become the closest person to him. She'd better ask for forgiveness from the one she so brazenly insulted. She certainly won't like the consequences of not apologizing to Tony. Did he decide to blackmail her? Tricks like that never work with Natalie. At least that was the case until today. But you have to believe that this guy was special. If he decides to get an apology, he will definitely get it. However, instead of an apology, he may get her life. How does she like this exchange? At the last moment, Tony demands that he stop immediately. There were laws here, because they did not live in the mountains, but in a modern society. Murder is a serious crime that carries a long prison sentence. Sam definitely won't be able to go to Tony's wedding if he does this. Fortunately, the last words helped to bring the fat man to his senses. Today she escaped death, but she certainly cannot hide from his curse. The guy begins to whisper the words of an ancient curse. Within a second, a vortex of dark magic begins to swirl in the room. Such a terrible curse will not end with a simple runny nose for Natalie. By chance, there were those nearby who could stop it. William heard the girl's loud screams while sitting not far from them. The magic still works, and it is enough for 2 people. However, right now, Sam's main target was not this brat at all. William sees with his own eyes what only happens in movies. Something resembling a monster is rushing towards the girl at full speed. Without hesitation, the guy rushes to help, still hoping to break the curse. He hits the fat man on the head with a club, but the attempt is unsuccessful. This action only made him even more angry. Now it was Sam's turn to answer for that sneaky blow from behind. This will most likely calm the guy down for a long time. The bookshelf broke in 2 when William fell into it. However, 2 pumped-up hulks will deal with the fat guy faster. Of course, if at least one of them can catch him. Sam was much more agile than he might have appeared at first glance. He finds himself behind them so quickly, it's as if he's living in accelerated time. Now the whole burden fell on his shoulders. The next blow put an end to this fight. Both guys are no longer dangerous, and are lying quietly on the floor. Only one youngster was still standing. This monstrous injustice must be corrected. William warns of the consequences that await the fat man, but he doesn't care about the consequences or about William himself. If the police hadn't shown up here, he would have proven it. However, the guns are already pointed in his direction. He needs to stop. Sam decides to put on a little show with his injured leg. He was also injured in the fight and needs urgent medical attention. Instead of the doctor, someone else came to his aid. Captain Niels did not expect their second meeting to take place so soon. It's better to talk about everything at the police station. In the interrogation room, he immediately begins to prove his innocence. Niels knows that Sam was just a decent fat guy. The officer tries to calm him down, especially since everyone here missed him. Yes, you can relax and breathe out. Just don't pull the wool over the captain's eyes and talk nonsense about innocence. Niels orders to remove the handcuffs from him. The fat man is not dangerous. Besides him, there are a couple more suspects who are worth interrogating. After this fight in the restaurant, Sam made some strong enemies. William was the favorite, 3rd grandson of a powerful gentleman. The guy must help the captain find out everything about them if he doesn't want to go to jail. By the way, the grandfather and grandson look very cute in the photo. But seriously, this is the first time he's heard of these bastards. What's more important is whether there is a separate room with a shower. It's strange that in such a situation he suddenly wanted to take a shower. In order to serve his entire sentence, the fat man simply has to wash his ass. Damn Joker! Meanwhile, Tony goes about his usual work in the lab. He notices his assistant in the distance. The guy explains that the new case was quite complicated. However, the case was only a dislocated joint, of which they had already seen hundreds. To understand it better, the assistant suggests looking at the X-ray. If this were a normal dislocation, the doctors would have dealt with it themselves. But this is something different. Never in his time as a doctor had Tony seen anything like it. The patient's joints were separated and then reattached using a strange method. Moreover, they cannot be returned to normal. If they decide to have surgery, the complications could become much more serious. During surgery, bone fragments are removed and the joint is restored, but this will not help here. Maybe it's worth cutting the ligaments first and only then restoring the joint? Old Edmund might have suggested a method if he hadn't taken the day off. But the assistant still needs to write a report on this matter. Sam has been causing him too much trouble lately. Tony asks to wait a little while with the work report. If the management rushes you, you can say that it's only a minor injury. It's a pity that Captain Niels was right when he warned Sam about the enemies. His file is already on the table, which means that now they will take the guy seriously. William asks to freeze Sam's accounts to limit his money. He hurt his pride too much. The assistant ensures that everything will be arranged in the best possible way. There is someone else in the office who doesn't like this fat man. Geneva asks her brother to leave the fat man to her. He hadn't heard her offer to help with business for a long time, but it is Geneva that is best at ruining other people's lives. Sam's father wasn't expecting guests today, especially in such numbers. For some reason, the guys from the tax office decide to check Rupert's personal files. One of them asks the old man to show documents with information about the import of goods. At that moment, he received a call on his phone. Tony was already aware of all the problems that had befallen the old man. However, even he could not help him in any way. Rupert apologizes for the distraction everyone has to deal with. The conversation is over, but his problems are just beginning. He built the company from scratch many years ago and was not involved in any fraud. In his business, he is used to acting according to his conscience, unlike his competitors. You can turn the entire office inside out, but they won't find evidence that doesn't exist. The guy tries to calm him down because it was just a routine check. But do they show up for a routine inspection without warning? We can consider that today was a day of unscheduled inspections. Even the police station was visited by those who did not give notice of their visit. For the first few seconds, the young security guard is still trying to understand something. But then he sees a squad of elite fighters in front of him. The guys with guns clearly didn't come here for simple communication. Judging by the face of their commander, they don't like to talk for long at all. Instead, the entire group heads towards the guard post. It is useless to threaten them with the law once they have entered the territory. Sam doesn't know anything yet, and is waiting for Captain Niels's decision. One of the cellmates decides to tell the guys a funny story. He once beat up a policeman who was sick. It was hilarious. He still tried to fight back, but the guy was ahead of the game. His buddy thinks it's really funny how he took down the elite soldier. The third scumbag decides to tell how he single-handedly dealt with an entire regiment. However, there was someone who could no longer be surprised by anything. Even a crowd of armed fighters couldn't handle this guy. He claims that he was able to throw everyone into the corners without a weapon, like an action movie hero. It seems that this was clearly too much. Don't they trust his words? If he came across such a detachment now, he would not leave a single one alive. It's a pity that these three didn't warn their friend in advance. He would have had time to cover his mouth before the elite squad got there. Even now, he hadn't managed to make his facial expression a little simpler. The laser sight was pointed in his direction, and his finger was on the trigger. Commander Lucas came here for a guy named Sam. It would be better if they gave him this man in a good way. He is also called the Fat Man, if that makes it easier to understand. After these words, everyone immediately points to the only fat man in the cell. It would be nice to understand what the hell is going on here. And why was his photograph prepared in the commander's hands? The similarities are obvious, so Lucas orders the boys to take him away. A bag on the head is never a bad idea in such cases. He must not see the way to the base where he will soon be taken. These daredevils immediately forgot all their heroic stories from the past. They thanked God that they remained safe after meeting the fighters. A short time later, Sam was taken to the elite troops base. Only once inside does he begin to understand where he is. It's strange to see bright light after a long time with a bag on your head. He understands that these guys don't wish him any harm. On the contrary, this was a great place to lose a few pounds. All information about him has long been known to Commander Lucas. He knew that at the age of 2, the boy was sent to live on the mountain. And recently, he cured a patient's strange illness with the help of a snake. Finally, a brilliant idea comes to his mind. Sam is sure that he sees in front of him the person who deals with the renewal of registrations. But such big guys are unlikely to waste their talent on nonsense with registration. Connor asks him not to be shy, because the fat man also fought well. He offers to fight one-on-one to test his strength. If he wins, Connor promises to personally order him some delicious food. For this, he is ready to do anything. True, a fight with an elite fighter was not part of the evening's plans. Sam decides to change the terms of the deal a little, if they're all brave here. Their commander is supposed to be next after Connor. This fat man knows how to choose worthy opponents. None of the fighters doubt their guy's victory. Mad Bull is the strongest fighter in the Soaring Dragon squad. Before we begin, Lucas can only guarantee one thing. However, he does not have time to finish telling what awaits Sam after the fight. A second later, the guy takes off. He attacks so quickly that the big guy doesn't even have time to move. A precise blow with the fingers hits the solar plexus. Nobody said Sam was going to mess around with him for long. It only took one blow to quickly determine the winner. The commander will remember this training sparring for a long time. However, like all the other fighters of the elite squad, he will still have to put his hands behind his head. He's obviously hiding something if he was willing to spar with Mad Bull. It's true that in our time even soldiers can't be trusted. Lucas orders the boys to put their guns down. He really can't understand how he managed to defeat the bull, but it's better to talk about this while standing, because communicating while lying down is harmful to your health. He will still have to tell everything down to the last detail. The subordinate reports that everything is fine with Mad Bull. He was injured in the fall, but overall he is not in any danger. We just need to wake him up and bring him to his senses. The main thing is what kind of fighting technique Sam used in this fight. At first he admits that he has always been bad at any fight, until the day he first used poison needles in battle. After these words, the fighter again aims the machine gun at him. He demands an immediate confession about what the guy poisoned Mad Bull with. He is poisoned with a strong anesthetic that will soon wear off. It will only take 3 minutes for Connor to come to his senses. In the end, it took even less time to do this. For the first few seconds, the big guy tries to understand what happened. Sam realizes that the elite squad was just a bunch of crooks. They promise to let him go after defeating Connor, and instead they try to carry out their stupid interrogation again. It is unlikely that he will ever trust them again after such a deception. The commander admits that this is just a small misunderstanding. He orders the boys to bring more tasty food here for Sam. In one of the rich houses of the city, there were no problems with food. However, there were other problems, much more serious. The grandson of the owner of this estate has completely gone crazy in recent days. He orders his nanny not to get too close to him. The guy imagines that all the demons of the underworld have gathered around him. He sees a pack of evil and terrible demons who call him with them. They want to drag him into the lair and eat William's insides. Sebastian demands to know what is happening to his grandson. Miss Margaret herself doesn't really understand anything, because he didn't behave like that before. William was a quiet boy and did not think about any demons. Sebastian orders his assistant to find the best doctor immediately, but suddenly he realizes that it was something completely different. There is no need to seek help at the city hospital. It won't help. Only Marek can deal with the dark supernatural force. The next day, Marek heads to the estate first thing. He observes his patient's behavior for some time. William still had a high temperature. It looks like a fever, but there are some hints of magic. He wants to know if the young master might have any serious enemies. Sebastian had never heard of his grandson crossing anyone's path. However, Marek sees that he has been cursed with nightmares. This is a pretty strong curse that gradually drives you crazy. Anyone who is subject to a magical attack gets tired very quickly and falls asleep. The horror is that the most terrible demons appear to him in his dreams. The victim of the curse wakes up in a sweat and quickly loses vitality. If it is not cured immediately, it may develop into a moon curse. There is one simple and quick solution to the problem. The problem is that according to the rules of magic, he is forbidden from removing someone else's curse. If he does not have a feud with the creator of the curse, it could lead to war. In the world of magic, everything was too complicated for ordinary people to understand. At this moment, Sebastian's assistant appears nearby. William's 2 bodyguards were overpowered by a guy named Sam. This name was well known to Marek, and besides, it was he who possessed such magic. It turned out that William's sister had already sent her best fighters to him. It seems like things are starting to become clearer now. This amateur magician decided to use a curse without permission. The aura that Marek emitted instantly knocks out windows. He didn't like it when someone didn't act according to the rules. We'll have to rid the community of magicians of one little amateur. In such matters, Marek always had good allies. Sebastian asks to lift the curse from his grandson, since this guy was unworthy. That's right. Such a curse can be dispelled in just a couple of minutes. One only has to see William and quickly exorcise the evil spirit. The assistant is tasked with bringing Sam back to the estate alive. He deserves a little chat before he's sent to the next world. They don't yet know what kind of friends the fat man has recently made. True, now he is more concerned about the food delivered here by the fighters. But when he's full, Sam will definitely tell him about his secret technique. You won't have to wait long. The guy knows how to instantly absorb all the food. Finally, Lucas asks to take a break for at least a second. He'll choke if he eats his dinner at this speed. As for the fight with the bull, the guy just managed to land a precise blow. But he himself spoke about the poisoned needle, didn't he? Sam decides to show what he meant when he talked about the needle. This hollow needle was the main secret to defeating the Mad Bull. Inside it is an anesthetic made from the poison of wood frogs. 3 needles can put even an elephant to sleep, not to mention a common person. At some point it seemed like they wanted to touch a living legend. However, Sam never liked boys. The commander asks him to write down the composition of this rare anesthetic. It is needed to protect the motherland, and not for personal purposes. The subordinate quickly runs for paper and pen before Sam changes his mind. When everything was ready, it turned out that the captain had returned to headquarters. This was the worst news that could be imagined. If he finds them like this, the boys are definitely done for. It's a shame, but the fat man will have to put on handcuffs again. You need to play a little scene in front of him so that he doesn't guess. The guy immediately throws himself on the floor, having misunderstood him a little. Nobody asked to play the role of a victim being beaten by hooligans. They better not ask him to do this. The fighter explains that he just needs to pretend that he was in handcuffs the whole time. Although in all the movies about villains it looks exactly like that. Usually the hero shouts that he will never in his life submit to criminals. Even in the face of death, he does not back down from his words. At some point, even the elite squad members took on the role of killers. It only remains to be seen how this will affect the captain. Captain Geneva is already here and ready to personally interrogate the suspect. The soldiers salute her, but the girl simply passes by. She's only interested in one fat guy who acts like an idiot. She looks down on Sam as just another small fry. Sam even blushed from the girl's direct gaze. However, he immediately states that it is impossible to lower his guard. Even if she did a striptease here, it wouldn't get a confession out of him. It looks like he needs to be taught a lesson in good manners. The commander warns that the use of violence could cause a scandal. But in his hand, he already has a large pointer ready for today's lesson. It will serve as an excellent tool for quickly training a fat man. Realizing what it smells like, the guy begs her not to do it. She likes him much more as a meek boy. Sam immediately tells everything he has managed to do in his life. Geneva is a little surprised that he agreed to cooperate so quickly. However, he still didn't say the main thing that they all expect from the guy. There was no admission of any real crime in his words. The girl realized that all this time he had only been mocking the investigation. A little more and she herself will commit a crime. At the last second, Commander Lucas tries to stop her. But it was already too late, and the blow from the iron club landed right on the head. It's funny how the accused looked at her after the blow. It was as if he was studying Geneva's reaction to the crime committed a second ago. They find themselves so close to each other that Sam decides to do something. Nothing like this had ever happened in this interrogation room. This is even more interesting than an iron club broken over the head. It was clear that Sam's new friends understood everything. He actually kissed her on the lips in response to this blow. The boys froze in place as the fat man kissed the police captain. Only after a few seconds of kissing, Geneva pushes him aside. She can't believe this happened to her. This girl definitely doesn't look like a bad cop. By the way, she has very sweet lips, as if Geneva had eaten too many candies. Damn, this fat guy is so fucking cool. He was the first to succeed in doing this with Geneva, which everyone was terribly afraid of. She swore to herself that next time he would have a hard time. Connor warns that Captain Geneva is very dangerous when angry. However, for Sam it was the first kiss in his life, as it was for her. Even if they talk to her, the girl will be angry with Sam for a long time. Only once did the grandson of a famous scientist decide to start a relationship with her. The mistake was that he wanted to get her by force. It was a grave mistake on his part. The girl responded just as rudely, shattering his feelings into pieces. A case was opened against the boy, but influential family members obstructed the investigation. Captain Geneva simply destroyed them using different methods. And the main thing is that at that time she was only 15 years old. If something similar happens to his loved ones, no prayers will save her. The commander advises not to get angry, because this incident will quickly be forgotten. In addition, its building is under 24-hour security. He won't have time to take 5 steps before the sniper pulls the trigger. Well, whether to believe him or not is their own business. But none of the guys will stop him if Sam decides to go. It would be better not to make such statements out loud. Even if he managed to defeat the bull, it still doesn't mean anything. Things are going too far, which means they can't avoid a big fight. They must remember what his main weapon is. Besides incredible speed, there are a couple more tricks up its sleeve. A second after it started, the fighter's body seemed to stop obeying him. The same goes for all the other guys in the elite group. In this form, it is much easier to scatter them in different corners. It's much easier than fighting a pack of wild animals in the mountains. Even Commander Lucas is powerless against such technology. Without even offering any resistance, the fighters quickly found their places on the floor. Before leaving, the guy notices a punching bag. He had long wanted to try his hand at this huge thing. You can even use a little magic to make the blow stronger. Until today, he has carefully hidden his true power. But after what happened, it's stupid to pretend to be a weakling. Sam just wanted to try hitting once and then leave. True. Now there is no point in tying this punching bag to the ceiling. It's also pointless for the guys to threaten him with their preparation. Sam is not strong in open combat, but he is a master when it comes to surprise attacks. Connor will remember for a long time how he lost twice in one day. The fat man is strong, since he was able to kill the entire group of fighters at once. Sam explains that the main secret to his success is regular eating. Where do you get your strength from if you're constantly on a diet? No. Connor guesses that the secret of incredible strength was not in food at all. And yet, without a fight, it is impossible to get to know each other well. Lucas warns that now the guy can only wait for his death. Not only did he act up all evening, he also made advances towards Captain Geneva. The next time he meets her, he is sure to suffer. However, she stole the first kiss that Sam had kept for 20 long years. How can normal men not understand such things? It's a shame to realize that new friends behave so meanly. Then this fat Romeo will have to justify his pogrom in the restaurant. Sam claims that that fight doesn't count, since he was alone against 2 fighters. Moreover, the nasty boy William was the first to start the conflict. As a result, he had to face the entire crowd alone. The commander believes that the guy himself turned that family against himself. Mr. Sebastian won't let this go so easily. You have to believe him. Lucas knows what he's talking about. It's funny to hear such warnings addressed to Sam. The opposite is true. He himself will not simply leave this matter. Sebastian's estate doesn't know anything about this yet. Geneva was silent all evening, but did not tell anyone what had happened. Mr. Sebastian is the first to notice her strange mood. At first, he tries to act cheerfully, as if everything was perfectly fine, but the girl's flushed face made it clear otherwise. She didn't even say hello to him before running into the room. Today was too difficult. Today, Geneva kissed a guy on the lips for the first time in her life. The problem was that the fat guy didn't even ask her permission to kiss him. But she dreamed that the first kiss would be completely different. She always imagined the man of her dreams in Sam's place. It's hard for her to forget the shame in the interrogation room. Meanwhile, something even more terrible was happening in her brother's bedroom. All the ingredients for the magical ritual are already ready. Maruk ignored all the prohibitions of the magical community and got down to business. He agreed to lift the nightmare curse from Sebastian's grandson. The spirit, who has been subordinate to Maruk for many years, is ready to carry out the command. In any case, the responsibility for removing the curse will fall on him. The guy concentrates all his strength in his hands for one touch. Today, William will leave the world of his endless nightmares. Maruk tells him to open his eyes and not to be afraid to go into the light. At the end of the journey, a helping hand will be waiting for him. Demons will be destroyed if they dare to block the path to the light. From the aura of the curse, Mark immediately recognizes Sam's handwriting. It must be admitted that the curse is indeed very strong. However, it is insignificant compared to the healing power of this magician. Now we just need to wait until William comes to his senses. Mr. Sebastian need not worry. His grandson will wake up soon. The assistant showed up here just in time to announce Sam's arrival. First of all, Maruk asks to free the premises from unnecessary people. Even personal security should not be able to see what is happening in this room. Sebastian himself may remain as the boy's closest relative. Today, two of the greatest magicians will meet in this place. The guy immediately understands that the owners of the estate live in luxury. Their house was simply huge, as if several families had settled in it. However, he was never able to walk more than a few steps. When Geneva gets a whip in his hands, he immediately remembers whose house this is. Commander Lucas had warned about such a meeting. She is very cute when she is angry. But he's unlikely to ask for a second kiss from Geneva. If the girl could, she would beat him to death with that whip. Sam asks to save your strength until the next meeting. As for these two, they didn't even handcuff the fat guy. The girl begins to suspect them of conspiring with Sam. She quickly goes into the house, but promises to find out their secret connection with the fat man. Connor advises the commander to keep an eye on him until things calm down. Meanwhile, Sebastian's personal guards accompany the guest. Never in his life had he been to such a luxurious estate. At this point, the boys' work is finished. They can head to the security room. As for Sam, work with him is just beginning. The guy admits that he always dreamed of meeting Mr. Sebastian. He considers it a great honor to meet such a person. If it weren't for Sebastian, this world would never have been illuminated by the light of goodness. He notices that his granddaughter's face looks quite healthy. But the main meeting was not with those two aristocrats. Someone dared to lift the curse of nightmares, ignoring the law. William warns that the fat man will not be able to escape punishment. But each of us will die someday, but William may do it sooner. It was a threat of violence right in the boy's own estate. Sebastian is surprised by how brave Sam is acting. He is not afraid to say what he thinks, even in difficult situations. During the time he spent in the mountains, he saw all the most terrible things in this world. The old man liked this attitude. But Marek doesn't like it when someone behaves too boldly in his presence. He warns that such arrogance sometimes leads to death. Although he believes that there was another arrogant scoundrel in this room. A scoundrel who shows no respect for the rules of the masters. Isn't he afraid that lifting the curse might provoke a war? It seems that fear is unknown to this guy. He created the best school of magic and has no right to be afraid of anything. Suddenly, Merrick learns that the fat man's mentor was Teacher Logan himself. With this confession, Sam wrote out a death sentence for him. Threatening Logan's best student was a bad idea. It's funny to watch how the face of a daredevil changes in a moment of wild fear. Old man Sebastian doesn't know what's going on yet. He doesn't understand why the big guy is bowing down to this boy. The same goes for this idiot. He demands that Marek come to his senses and punish their common enemy. But punishment has already been prepared for Marek himself. Sam decides to start with a light slap, almost knocking his head off. It's a good thing he didn't clench his fist before he struck. Now he asks to repeat once again the words about the best school of magic Marek. Marek was silent, but a second slap would quickly bring him to his senses. Now he must explain who allowed him to lift the curse. No one argues with his skill in braiding hair. However, when it comes to magic, only one of them was a master. He orders him to kneel before the guru. The guy carries out the order without delay. It's funny that a minute ago he was pretending to be a fearless warrior. Marek admits that he would not take a single step into the estate. If only he had known that he would meet here the first disciple of the greatest master. For a long time he hesitates to get to his feet. Sebastian has seen everything in his long life, but he clearly missed something. Before his eyes, Sam was choosing a suitable punishment for the big guy Marek. He orders the nightmare curse to be returned to William. At this moment, a loud female voice is heard in the hall. Geneva could not remain on the sidelines when her brother's fate was being decided. She suggests forgetting the incident with William as a bad dream. But that blow to Sam's head cannot go unpunished. Until William atones for his sin, he will remain in his nightmares. Sebastian asks to show respect at least to him. After all, we are talking about his grandson, which means the old man will also suffer from this. With these words, they caught the guy off guard. Geneva reminds that she herself suffered from Sam's sudden kiss. Oh yeah, her family knows nothing about that first kiss. Marek decides that Geneva will soon become Sam's bride. This time I had to replace the simple slap with a kick. Nobody was talking about marriage, so why say this nonsense out loud? But he himself once told Marek about his future bride. That time Sam sat on his shoulders and slapped him in the face. He promised that he would give his first kiss to the one who would become his wife. In other words, it was Geneva that was given this role. However, everything is already in the past, and you can turn the page. Sam decides to end the conflict with William for the sake of Mr. Sebastian. But the conversation with Marek was not over yet. He removed the most powerful nightmare curse without permission. As punishment, Sam must place the Bone Eater's curse on him. There is no need to worry. The curse will disappear on its own within a day. The big guy decides not to resist and just accept the punishment. He must endure everything while he whispers the spell. However, even the healthy Marek finds it difficult to endure such pain. His wild cries could be heard throughout the estate. For a long time, the guy cannot recover from the curse that was imposed. He thanks Sam for the fact that the great magician left him alive at all. Don't believe Marek's words about some stupid wedding after a kiss. True, he can kiss her again if Geneva asks. Instead, the girl demands to get out of her estate. It's a shame that table hit the door and not his fat belly. A second later, Sam appears on the threshold again in pleasant company. Sebastian orders that he be released and not kept here any longer. Poor Marek got it pretty bad in the squabble with the fat man. He thanks his young daughter-in-law for daring to intervene. After these words, Geneva finally lost her temper. By the way, even William heard about the Bone Eater's curse. There are 10 of the most terrible curses in magic that are better left unheard of. The curse placed on Marek was in 4th place. The victim feels as if his body is being devoured by thousands of ants. It is impossible to describe in words how much my whole body hurts at that moment. I want to die, just to stop this suffering. Sam even took pity on him, placing a curse on him for only 1 day. Few people saw him in a rage when he showed all his power. Death awaits anyone who harms his loved ones. This man will immediately learn what it means to live worse than death. By freezing his father's accounts, William put himself in mortal danger. An order must be given immediately to lift the freeze on accounts. 10 minutes later, Mr. Rupert received some great news. He had already resigned himself to the fact that his company would be reduced to dust. The old man smoked too much that evening. However, a phone call was able to bring him to his senses. It turns out that all problems can be solved in minutes. He hears that the assistant's voice sounds completely different. The inspection team has already left, apologizing for their visit. Finally, they were awarded a certificate for honest business conduct. However, even this news did not please the old man. He is sure that his son had to pay a high price for this. However, there was another piece of good news. Sam was fine and recently went for an evening walk. In fact, the guy is still in the company of fighters. The commander expects new poisons from him that will help in his work. The Mad Bull had already experienced the power of such poison firsthand. To do this, you will have to mix several dangerous poisons at once. The usual venom of a snake, spider, or bee is not enough for such things. If he needs more serious poisons, Lucas knows where to get them. There is no doubt that he will have everything he needs at his disposal. It is the largest research center for venomous animals. A huge number of poisonous creatures are kept here. All you have to do is say what kind of poisons the guy will need for his work. It's a shame Sam didn't know about the existence of such centers earlier. At first, he cannot decide which poison to start mixing with. In such a place, all the wild animals of the mountain can be kept. Even the most dangerous creatures did not pose a danger to people. Maybe they'll let him fry at least one snake? A center employee notices his friend among the elite fighters. He came here on business, just to pick up a couple of poisons for one task. Sam asks to give him some time to look around here. It seems that the snakes understand how this inspection could end for them. This research center contains animals from all over the world. For example, they even managed to bring in the Brazilian viper. By the way, this Amazonian poisonous toad resembles a pile of feces. The Australian boa constrictor looks more like a dried-out branch. There are many more poisonous insects here than animals. There were more than 100 desert scorpions alone. It's strange why the scientist calls the fighters such strange nicknames. Lucas explains that it all depends on the skills of each fighter. For example, the commander is called the hunting dog for his keen sense of smell during battle. And Connor acts like a mad bull, hence his nickname. If Sam were to choose a nickname for himself, he would choose the strongest animal. I wonder what the greatest animals are. The guy thinks that the dragon, tiger, and leopard suit him the most. Well, so be it. They will spend a long time trying to unravel the mystery that is hidden in his head. The commander admits that he will not call the fat man a dragon. It's strange that they like their boring names better. It would be better if the scientist didn't hear their stupid conversations. For their sake, he abandoned his research, and now he has to listen to nonsense. He doesn't understand why he should waste time on such nonsense. One specimen immediately catches Sam's attention. Previously, he met him in the mountains, but now he sees him right in the center of the city. A rare species of poisonous spider numbered only 2,000 in the world. These creatures are called undertakers for their amazing hunting ability. For some unknown reason, all these spiders became extinct in the mountainous area. It had been a long time since Lucas had seen the guy so focused. The scientist suggests taking a closer look at the patterns on the spider's back. When all the patterns come together, it's impossible to take your eyes off them. You could even fall in love with spiders. They were so beautiful. Sam asks to give him 2 copies if the doctor doesn't mind. It's impossible, since the research center only had 10 of them. If even one spider escapes into the street, deaths in the area cannot be avoided. Suddenly the guy says they made a mistake. This type of spider is called a corpse spider, not an undertaker. Rotting animal carcasses are their main food. Therefore, the spider's venom contains cadaveric poison, which makes it stronger. After the spider bites, its victim begins to decompose alive from the inside out. This is the true power of the corpse spider. The scientist had not met such a knowledgeable guy for a long time. In ancient times, corpse spiders were used for stealth killings. Enemies died in minutes, which left the others in shock. The use of this method was considered the most cruel. However, their venom is really needed for healing, not for killing. All you need to do is grind the spider in a mortar and mix it with medicinal herbs. This medicine removes any scars without any problems. In addition, there are other uses for such drugs. Surely the scientist has heard something about a cure for botulism. The rejuvenating effect of the medicine can restore 20 years of life. You can trust Sam's words. He never jokes about such things. The guys are already starting to suspect something. Scientists only have specimens in their hands, but Sam can turn them into money. The scientist's face will even be on the back if he gives a couple of spiders. The man asks to wait for him here for just a few minutes. He is too naive to allow himself to be led around by the nose. Now he will have some time to look around here. Everything in this center was done first class. He had no idea that it was possible to create an artificial environment for creatures. True. Such an environment made the spiders too lethargic and emaciated. It's a shame to see wild creatures forced into confinement. He doesn't notice that they are being closely watched all this time. Cameras were placed everywhere. The scientist already realized that this whole story about the medicine was pure fiction. The director demands to know where this fat man came from. However, besides his strange knowledge, there were other oddities. You'll have to believe this guy is crazy. He got hold of a tall ladder and now wants to dive headfirst into the terrarium. Even the fighters can't bring Sam to his senses and just watch from the sidelines. It felt like he had jumped into a pool on a hot summer day. Lucas warns that all the spiders at the research center were venomous. But such a warning has no effect on the poison healer. For the first few seconds, he waits for the spider attacks to begin. They were everywhere and could kill anyone in an instant. What the hell came over him? Ralph realizes that he is definitely doomed. There is no chance here. How can he now explain this incident to his superiors after the guy's death? Suddenly, the scientist notices something that simply shouldn't be happening. It turns out that the fat man had no intention of committing suicide. What previously seemed impossible was happening before everyone's eyes. The golden bumblebee appears in Sam's hands, but the surprises don't end there. Spiders crawl onto the guy's body as if he had become their trainer today. He pets cute little animals that contain the most dangerous poison. Had he really never played enough with them in his entire life in the wild? However, they really did become his true friends. In a sense, poisonous creatures became closer to him than people. The scientist can't explain why the undertakers don't bite him. The director orders everyone to go downstairs immediately. Now they are on the verge of a grand opening. 10 minutes later, Ralph personally goes to the room with the spiders. The soldiers understand that after what happened, they are definitely finished. The director didn't like it when someone broke the rules of his center. The first thing Sam needs to do is get down from there immediately. He'll probably end up behind bars again after Ralph's statement. For some time, the man tries to understand what the guy's secret was. Unexpectedly, the director extends his hand to him as to a good friend. He wants to meet the person who dared to take such a risky step. The director will never forget what he saw today. At first, the guy doesn't know what to answer to such words. Things are getting a lot more interesting. He offers the guy to take 2 spiders that he likes better. No need to pay. It was just a small gift for your courage. Ralph has already heard about the cure that Sam promises to create. Only now do the guys understand what the director is getting at. The fat man happily agrees to accept the spiders as a gift. It's nice that a kind uncle is ready to give away rare specimens for free. It would be good if all people on Earth became as kind. If that's all, Sam can just go home with the spiders. Ralph reminds that the spiders are very valuable and were brought from another country. It would be fair if in return the guy revealed to him the recipe for a rare medicine. In response, the fat man declares that he looks incredibly like the action star. So far, no one understands why he blurted this out. The director doesn't even argue that the guy looks like the hero of the movie. But what does this have to do with the new drug? Sam is talking about a specific movie star. That's the whole point. Maybe he looks like Dustin Hoffman, or at least Tom Hanks. Ralph honestly admits that he doesn't look like any actor. True, he doesn't look like Rain Man or Forrest Gump at all. It's a shame that the director saw such an idiot in him. You have to be a moron to agree to such a ridiculous proposal. This kind of resistance makes everyone stop for a while. Despite his past, Sam can easily tell the difference between lies and truth. He wants to give him simple spiders in exchange for the priceless medicine. Only such tricks don't work with Sam. You have to offer something completely different to get the guy to agree. He demands to be taken seriously next time. Suddenly, Ralph asks to wait until he calls an urgent meeting. Scientists should treat the fat man as a dear guest. Now it was just a matter of small things. Sam asks for all the ingredients on the list. He became even more impudent than in the first minutes of the meeting. Soon the guy gets access to everything that is in the center. The potion called the Medicine of Truth immediately interested Lucas. After drinking the potion, the accused will tell everything he knows. The only drawback is that the person remains mentally retarded forever. Suddenly the guy notices something very unusual in the corner of the room. There's probably an interesting item hidden in the box. It's worth taking a closer look. The director continues to watch him from his office. He realizes that Sam is about to start creating the potion right in the center. But first, he blocks the lens of the surveillance camera. The first potion is a mixture for quickly putting the enemy to sleep. The other bag contains something more dangerous than any sleeping pill. When he tried the killing smile on a boar, it died with a smile on its face. There are still many potions in stock, but Sam gave them the best ones. His actions are worthy of respect. The meeting has already ended, and the director appears on the threshold again. He offers to have a little snack and drink some delicious tea. Sam agrees only if the director pays for lunch. Finally, he asks the commander to treat him to some roast game for his help. No problem, he deserved it. In the evening, they meet in a cozy place. The main guys from Commander Lucas's squad were here. Director Ralph hopes that sooner or later the fat man will give the recipe for the potion. Alcoholic drinks are enough to loosen his tongue. Lucas had found out a few things about the director's methods in advance. He wants to get Sam drunk and then find out all his secret potions. Of course, he will offer a lucrative contract, keeping the guy with him. So instead of Sam, the commander will be drinking today. Together with the raging bull, they will destroy all alcohol. The first toast is made by the director. Ralph suggests raising their glasses and drinking to great friendship. Everyone supports Ralph and empties their glasses. The guys are watching closely to make sure no one cheats. However, one of the guests was more important than all the others. The director sees that the fat man is simply gobbling up food without drinking alcohol. He admits that in the mountains they didn't teach him how to drink. Ralph doesn't like this answer. A real man should be able to drink at least one small glass. Sam simply has to drink to friendship with everyone else. The commander offers to drink a double portion of alcohol instead of the guy. However, such a statement was completely out of place. Ralph spoke of a respect for friendship that the boy had not yet shown. Are talks of friendship just empty words for him? He has already said this. He can repeat it again. A non-drinking man was always seen by the director as a common coward. This is a real challenge. The commander tries to stop him, but it was too late. Instead of a shot of strong alcohol, Sam drinks the whole glass at once. None of them will call him a coward anymore. Having emptied the glass, the guy loudly puts it on the table. He challenges Ralph to prove that he too is a real man. But it all started with a simple friendly feast. Ralph agrees to take part in this little competition. He warns that he should not be blamed later. The evening is no longer boring. The guy drinks as if this is his last drinking party in his life. He has no doubt that he will defeat Ralph. The man also does not intend to lose this argument. For some time, everyone is having fun and enjoying the friendly feast. However, the feast soon turns into a wild nightmare. It's becoming increasingly difficult for them to pour alcohol with shaking hands. Many guys have been dreaming about their 10th dream for a long time now. All but 2 of the disputants do not remember their own names. But the main competition of the evening continues. Sam is not going to give up after what the principal said about him. True, the guy had one little secret. All the alcohol flowed down to the fingertips without reaching the stomach. This is why the fat man stood so steadfast. He suggests that Ralph continue until they have drunk everything. The director will not be able to withstand such a test in his old age. Sam raises his next toast to the heroes of past years. They deserve to have their exploits remembered by children. A little more, and he will definitely fall down dead. The guy can't wait to see it. While Ralph was drinking alcohol, his opponent was pouring it on the floor. Beneath him was a whole puddle of whatever had been in Ralph's stomach. This can't go on forever. Ralph understands this better than anyone. He hopes that the fat man will soon refuse to continue the competition. Instead, he asks the waiter to bring 5 more bottles. Today was a celebration of friendship, and we needed to get properly drunk. It's hard, very hard to hear this. An hour later, 5 new bottles of booze were empty. Sam is as happy as a little child. The same cannot be said about Ralph. The man does not understand where he is now. At first, the fat man told everyone that he didn't know how to drink. After these words, for some reason I wanted to sneeze. That's right, he said he couldn't drink. The director realizes that Sam has deceived him, because he is still sober. The guy continues to claim that there was not a drop of lie in his words. He really doesn't know how to drink, or how to get drunk after drinking alcohol. If he doesn't get drunk, how can he learn to drink? Now it doesn't matter anymore, because there is one loser in their dispute. Ralph won't deny that he can't exactly be called a winner. According to the rules, each winner must receive his prize. A contract in the hands of a fat man would be quite suitable as a prize. It contained a detailed description of everything that he would soon need. The job is done, so we need to take our guys and get out of here. Suddenly, he hears a telephone ringing somewhere nearby. The guy is trying to find his phone, which is probably lost under the table. The phone was nowhere to be found, but the call continued to come in. That's right, he was there. A female voice on the phone announces that the squad has a new mission. I had to admit that out of all the guys, only one remained sober. Geneva demands to be given the exact address where the fighters are currently located. He himself can deliver them to the department if he can wake them up. After a short conversation, a bad feeling immediately appeared. Within an hour, they were near the military base. Nobody yet knew how exactly they had to get there. Elite squad members must move much faster. But today they clearly lacked speed. Sam took on the job of delivering drunken fighters to base. Right now, he's dragging Connor around and asking him to move aside. They drank on mission, but only for the sake of successfully completing the mission. It's nice when one of the guys is the only one left sober. They would have definitely missed the helicopter if it weren't for Sam's help. It is known that Captain Geneva does not forgive such miscalculations. In fact, Geneva itself was already here. As expected, only the fat man was able to provide an explanation. But with each passing day, her attitude towards Sam seems to change for the better. She still has questions for him, but there's something about the guy. The girl asks him to go back and entrust the matter to professionals. The fat man is sure that without his help, they will fail the mission. You can trust him at least once during their acquaintance. Finally, Geneva agrees to take him on the mission. The helicopter pilot had already decided that the mission was cancelled for today. It's not surprising, because the guys were sleeping even after their arrival. Commander Lucas is the first to open his eyes. It was so bad, it was as if someone had been playing football with his head all night. How much the hell did he drink? Enough to sleep the entire way to the location. He realizes that he has been in a military helicopter for a long time. The commander loudly orders the soldiers to wake up. Connor's closest comrade drank about the same amount yesterday. It takes a lot of courage to get drunk before an important mission. Geneva hopes that this will not stop the boys from completing it. She orders everyone to stand still until landing. Among them is a brave man who asked Geneva to be silent. Was he going to give orders to the squad captain? She may have stolen his first kiss, but she has no right to deprive him of rest. They have something to discuss and something to remember. Lucas doesn't believe that the fat man actually signed a contract with Ralph. The contract was in his hands, as well as the profit from the shares. He will receive 30% of the sales of the new mixture. The contract requires nothing more from Sam than consultation. In other words, he will simply help the center create new potions. Lucas warns that there may be a trap behind this. Once they get the manufacturing technology, they will simply throw it in the trash. For large businesses, this wouldn't be difficult to pull off. At first, the fat man thought so too. But then he realized something. You can follow their lead, and at the right moment, take everything for yourself. You may not believe it, but the company will belong to Sam. He offers the guys to join his company after they retire. It's a tempting offer, but Connor has long since stopped believing in fairy tales. By putting it this way, old Connor is missing an important detail. The medicines he created require a large number of corpse spiders. From a pair of corpse spiders, he intends to raise a whole offspring. Having received these babies, Sam will create a new generation of medicine. Then director Ralph himself will crawl to him, begging him to come back. However, Ralph himself can raise spider offspring. That's the whole point. Without proper supervision, they will not be able to succeed in breeding. With such plans, the fat man resembles a cunning fox in pig's skin. Well, these plans are worth testing in practice. Now Geneva announces the objective of the mission to capture the smuggling organization. This organization owns a quarter of all imported contraband goods. 4 days ago, the three heads arranged a meeting at an abandoned factory. They just need to be eliminated. It's very simple. The boys haven't received such a simple task for a long time. It remains to be seen what role the fat man will play in the mission. Sam hoped that for him, it would all end with a simple helicopter tour. It was his first time getting to the destination by aircraft, although I expected the flight to be a little more comfortable. Of course there were seats here, but they were too hard for him. Besides, he never met a single beautiful flight attendant. It turns out that Sam went on the mission just for this reason. The guy insists that it's not about the seat or the beautiful flight attendants. He was being a little disingenuous. There is no point in talking about this in front of Geneva. The helicopter soon landed on the landing pad. Today was the first day he looked at the world from above. Although this guy is already used to looking down on everyone, Geneva decides that Sam might be useful to her case. Her father is celebrating his birthday soon. We need to get some things here. She promises to find a place where they can get something to eat. There are so many things to do at once, it's hard to even count them. Suddenly he declares that he cannot be deceived so easily. The girl is not going to force him, and can go alone if he doesn't want to. This approach worked, although Sam insists on paying for lunch. It's not clear about paying for lunch, but she has the power to issue a free kick. Looks like I'll have to calm her down a little. The hand instantly appears close to the waist. Another second and Geneva loses control of her body. In this pose, they look more like a dancing couple than fighters. The guy advises not to ask for a kiss so openly. This will serve as a lesson to all who are still too inexperienced with girls. Captain Geneva orders the blockheads to run quickly to training. The couple themselves head straight to the service car. Sam is the one who can act as their driver. First, she wants to make sure he can drive. It's stupid to even ask such questions to the king of the track. Every day he becomes more and more confident. It's nice. The only bad thing is that Sam remains a little liar. While he was looking for the ignition key, it was already possible to arrive at the place. We have to make excuses that the car was too big, as if it even matters. It is clear that Geneva itself delivered them to their destination. She found the ignition key much faster. However, the guy expected to see a restaurant, not a second-hand market. It's hard to understand what she needed in such a place. Was she really going to sell the fat man at this market? She finds it funny to watch him, but the guy doesn't find it funny at all. However, for his share of the sale of himself, he is ready to take the risk. She was actually joking, in case Sam didn't get it. If you're not destined to make money, one kiss from Geneva can brighten up the day. She agrees to this, as long as the car doesn't turn over from shaking. After a hard blow to the forehead, the girl put on the plaster herself. It was very sweet of her. Meanwhile, life on the market goes on as usual. The most common commodity here was rare stones. The fat man doesn't understand anything about this. He doesn't seem to understand anything except poisons. One of the passers-by notices a rare ice rock. Surprisingly, there was not a single crack on it. Geneva falls in love with the stone at first sight. It would be better if she fell in love with a living person, of which there are plenty here. In such places you can find quality jade cheaper than in the store. Still, you'll have to fork out some cash for one copy. A strange stranger appears next to the fat man. He acts as if he has known Sam for a long time. A salesman named Matthew was sure that the fat man was incredibly talented. If you think about it, he was damn right. This is usually what all sellers do when they want to sell a product. In case Matthew is selling adult films, Sam is not interested in that. But that's not the point at all. He is ready to do anything. If only the guy would listen to his proposal. He has at his disposal a luxurious stone for only 5,000. He can see for himself the quality of the stone. A specimen like this is hard to find. Damn it, it's Jasper! This is the stone that the fat man was supposed to find. At this moment, the guy has another vision. Last time he was able to foresee the disaster, he needs to do it again. The trouble is that this man will soon go bankrupt. A minute ago, this simpleton decided to fool him. But the aura emanating from the stone was truly strong. You can get rich with a specimen like this if you understand it. Matthew is willing to sell it right now for a modest fee. There was one problem, because Sam only had 2,000 with him. Even Matthew never allowed himself such impudence. However, this is true, and there was simply no other money. Matthew realizes that 2,000 is still better than a useless stone. The deal took place at the same location. Sam has become the owner of the stone. Congratulations are in order. True, no one cares about it. There are other copies here that have a queue forming for them. Some of the stones were offered as much as 13 million in cash. The merchant is ready to sell it to the one who offers the best price. The emerald is worth its money, because there is no other stone like it anywhere in the world. Surely there will be someone willing to pay 14 for it. To be honest, the stone immediately caught Geneva's attention. At that moment, someone called her name. Sam has been looking for a place here for a long time where he can break a stone. He was able to surprise her with this purchase. There were plenty of free stone cutting machines. The bad news is that it costs 1 cent. Even with that kind of money, I don't want to part with it. He decides to find a place where the stone will be cut for free. It is unlikely that anyone is involved in charity work in the market. Unless you do it at a time when the owner is not around, a little more and the fat man will manage to save 1 cent. It soon became clear what he had paid 2,000 for. In his hands is an ordinary stone that can be found underfoot. But recently it seemed that a strong aura emanated from him. At that moment the phone in my pocket rang. Tony happily announces his promotion for the work he has done. He recalls how the guy recently predicted this promotion. He was right, because today he was appointed deputy director. Old Sebastian probably had a personal hand in this. He wants to establish a relationship with a promising doctor. In the middle of the conversation, Sam notices something that was hidden from view. He quickly hangs up without even finishing his sentence. Market visitors immediately understand what exactly has fallen into his hands. The guy found a rare stone that none of them had. Geneva hears the crowd begin to discuss heatedly. No one cares anymore what the local merchants offer. Emerald ice was so rare that many people were seeing it in real life for the first time. The fat man turned out to be very lucky. If she had known about this earlier, she would have been more gentle with him. Most likely, he remembers every offensive word addressed to him. All this time, Sam continues to study his stone. The specimen was much more expensive than ordinary jade. One of the guys starts to offer his advice. There were also those who considered the emerald to be a cheap fake, although even such a fake will find its buyer. Perhaps the stone was imbued with divine spirit. Only Sam knows that in his hands is the quintessence of pure jade. There is no doubt that this stone is the most expensive on the entire market. The guy makes everyone nervous with his unceremonious abruptness. You can't treat it like a regular river rock. In a rush, Sam cuts off the extra 2 inches. However, beginners are always lucky and this can work. Geneva has never liked envious people. One of them decides to be the first to engage in dialogue with the newcomer. He offers to buy back the part of the stone that he has already cut off. As they say, it's a question of price. There is no need to worry about that. He is ready to pay 5 million. The crowd at the market immediately came to life upon hearing the bargaining. He is only willing to offer such a price to Sam out of personal sympathy for the newcomer. He immediately gets hit on the head with a stone. That piece was offered for 20 million at auction. There can be no talk of 5 million for Sam's stone. Moreover, the quality of the emerald ice was much higher. Buyers are vying with each other to offer between 30 and 70 million. There is someone who is ready to pay 90. Donald had been keeping an eye on Sam and his rare emerald for a long time. He knows that no one will win the bidding against him for the stone. Or will there still be wealthy merchants among the poor? In that case, you should step aside when Dad enters the arena. Gradually, Geneva remembers the face of the big man Donald. He extends his hand to someone who is worthy of his respect. Donald was considered the richest businessman of them all. On this occasion, he invites everyone to a restaurant at his own expense. It's a pity that of the 2 fat men, only Donald was rich. He buys drinks for a crowd of unknown guys at a restaurant. And he hands Sam a check for 90 million for 1 stone. You can withdraw money at any bank in the world. Now it's time to pick up your purchase. However, Sam has not yet decided whether to sell the emerald. Besides, the price of 90 million is too low. Donald had never heard anything like this even from the most impudent guys. The deal was never meant to happen. Sam had no intention of selling the stone, and was simply looking for a reason to refuse. He was interested to know the approximate price, and he found out. The rest can simply watch him go and be envious. Traders will remember for a long time how Donald was put in his place. She won't forget this either. Geneva saw this scene from beginning to end. He had been meaning to ask her an important question for a long time. But he had always been afraid before. The question is whether Geneva has an extra 2,000. She had hoped to hear something completely different from him. He spent too much money on buying and cutting the stone. It's worth at least reminding you that they charge a whole cent for a simple cut. A minute ago, the stone could have been worth 90 million. But without even taking the 2,000, Sam gives her the emerald for free. You should hold him tightly to your chest and never let go. So close to the heart that you can feel its aura. Sam can already feel the pleasant warmth of the aura spreading across his palm. Actually, it was the warmth from her body. He will remove his paws faster if you kick him. Judging by the fat man's scream, it worked. Many people do not understand the stupidity of the act with the gifted stone. But Donald is not one to give up. Sam didn't want to give up either, and now he's in pain. If you look closely, the fat man behaves very nicely. The girl decides to take a closer look at him. You'll have to get used to the fact that he always carries bags of food with him. It was a bit awkward. However, this trifle does not prevent Geneva from doing what she has planned. She gives him a tender kiss in response to the guy's gift. This time, everything happens sincerely, because the girl herself wants it. 1 kiss is enough to start with. Suddenly, Geneva realizes that she did it because of the overwhelming emotions. They look at each other in silence for a while. Without missing a beat, Sam invites her to sleep with him tonight. With such a proposal, he immediately ruined all the romance. However, she will not be able to obtain his soul, even if Geneva conquers the fat man's body. This was the last point of her patience. In the evening, all the fighters found out about the guy's gift. The commander is aware that the stone was bought for mere pennies. It wasn't a matter of luck, but of foresight. He knew that the merchant would go bankrupt, and decided to help the poor man. In the end, everyone was the winner, and Geneva got the precious stone. It's a shame, but his last sentence ruined everything. And yet, now she acts as if she is floating in the sky with happiness. They don't often see her in a good mood. With a smile, the girl orders him to quickly drag his ass to the meeting. Here, everything was ready for the first acquaintance. The target of the mission was 3 leaders of criminal groups. In 2 days, they will arrive for a meeting at a secret location. We need to arrest everyone at once and deliver them to the city immediately. The area where they are located was part of an ancient forest. You need to be careful of poisonous insects and local predators. Within 24 hours, Geneva will have the exact route at its disposal. The operational task will be announced when they reach the assembly point. The guy feels that something doesn't add up in this story. For some time, he tries to understand where the catch might be hidden. But a second later, he notices death hanging over Lucas's head. Sam loudly demands that everyone stop and abandon this hopeless business. Geneva has never seen such a reaction before. It is worth explaining why he considers this simple mission impossible. A terrible incident will happen to the squad during the operation. He knows exactly who in the group will not return alive. First on the list of the dead was Commander Lucas. Following him was Captain Geneva. And then everyone else will die in the abandoned factory. Information on this task was passed on to the criminals by someone. Someone from Geneva's inner circle was an informer. The man, who was planted in the organization 6 years ago, works for them. The captain explains that the details of the operation are known only to senior officers. The rest of the fighters don't even know the exact location. Even so, deaths during the mission are inevitable. He is confident that the task can be rescheduled for another day. If you think about it, the fat man really did foresee trouble many times. There is no doubt that his words are worth listening to. He wouldn't sabotage the mission before it started. Sam will go there with them if they don't listen to him. If it becomes too dangerous, he will resort to magic. Connor isn't entirely sure if this is a good idea. He just hadn't seen his destructive magic in action. Lucas becomes the first of them to refuse the mission. He completely trusts the fat man's words. Besides, this is a simple one-time task, of which there are dozens. Instead, the guy suggests throwing a fun feast. Talking about food calms the nerves. 10 minutes later, the fighters bring him to a cozy place. Here, no one will stop him from doing what he loves. However, the fat man expected to see at least barbecues here. Unfortunately, the guys have nothing to offer except the toilet. The good news is that he will be the boss here. You don't have to worry about the endless queue to the toilet. Having closed the door tightly, they also hang iron chains around it. Sam didn't expect such meanness from his friends. This was Captain Geneva's order. Otherwise, he would have tagged along with them. Lucas promises that he will personally treat him to shashlik upon arrival. In the meantime, we'll have to wait until the end of the mission. Sometimes you have to go to extremes to make the right decision. It's a pity that everything turned out this way. But the guy himself will thank them when he understands everything. If only he knew that there are liars among friends. He is always on guard, unless it concerns people close to him. Today, they have become the main traitors. You will have to stay in a locked barracks until late at night. As darkness fell, the voices in the area died down. He still remains alone, waiting for the group to arrive. All this time, Sam does not give up trying to shout to the guys. Suddenly, the door of the barracks opens slightly. Someone who accidentally ended up out of work appears at the door. For the fat man, this was his only hope. This time, lying will be severely punished. It is better to tell the truth. The guy admits that everyone left for the mission 3 hours ago. If he hadn't been so hungry, the guy wouldn't have fallen for the deception. Even this fighter understands that they did something unfair. It's okay if he lets Sam go free. It will be much faster to get to the point by car. The main thing is not to break down on the way through the dark forest. The boys have camouflaged themselves well and are now waiting for the command. Only the best of the best are given such a task. Among the leaders, there are those who cannot be fooled by childish tricks. The guys don't yet know that they have been identified a long time ago. You don't have to kill the entire group to stop the mission. The fighters take up their assault positions beyond the border of the territory. The most hardened criminals are gathered in one place. Jokes with such guys often end in death. Geneva is the first to notice the arrival of an important person. He heads off to meet the rest of the leaders. Then it becomes clear that he did not arrive alone. He has nothing to worry about and can get out of the salon. The main thing is that he is a front agent for Captain Geneva. She orders them to be careful when the shooting starts. You can't hit this guy with bullets. The fighter's second target is already heading towards him. Everyone is talking about him because of his leader's appearance. He looks more like a dried-out mummy than a human being. The other mission objects have not yet arrived for the meeting. The guy is confident that the other leaders will take the bait. There is no need to worry about their delay. However, Shaman still hasn't seen the rest of the group leaders. At that moment, he seemed to sense the presence of extra guests. The elite squad appeared here much earlier. The shaman calls upon his ancient magical power. Even birds are susceptible to control magic. They easily calculate the place where a detachment of fighters is hiding. Magic instantly envelops the first of them. It becomes clear that toxic smoke has spread. This weapon can easily stop almost an entire armed group. Mad Bull became the one with whom contact was immediately lost. Geneva remembered the fat man's words too late. The girl's eyesight became cloudy, and the ringing in her ears grew louder with every second. A couple of minutes were enough to put several fighters to sleep. Luckily, their best hope for salvation was close at hand. Together with the remaining fighter, he drives to the location at full speed. If you go west along the mountain, you can easily find them. In such steep terrain, it is easy to run into trouble. No matter how well Sam fights, he can't go alone. All this time, the guy was talking to himself. The fat man had already begun to save the group. He knows better than anyone about moving quickly in the forest. Some people will have to be woken up. The spider will be able to hibernate again a little later. I don't care about the details when the lives of many fighters depend on you. He must make it before his prediction comes true. The abandoned factory is just a 5-minute walk away. Moving in the forest at night is always dangerous. He would have to go down to where the wild forest animals were. It's a little dangerous to get between these two right now. At first glance, there is nothing special about this meeting between the two animals. Wild boar can often be found in such places, as well as the tiger, by the way. However, the guy immediately notices something strange in the animal's behavior. The tiger came into foreign territory, which had never happened before. He behaves like the master of these places, out hunting. Even several adults do not frighten him. But instead of attacking, the tiger continues to remain at a distance from them. He lies down next to their dead relative. Suddenly, Sam sees another strange feature in this predator. He quickly descends, realizing the defenselessness of the predator. It's not surprising, because he had been seriously injured a long time ago. The wound was too deep for the animal to survive for another day. Looking at the wounded tiger, the fat man immediately wanted to have dinner. 9 minutes later, he finds a spot for a night picnic. The fire is already lit, and you won't have to share the spoils with anyone. Luckily, instead of a tiger, he chose roasted boar. The master of the forests could not understand this guy for a long time. Usually no one shows such concern. Instead of leaving the tiger to die, he takes it with him. For a while, he looks at the fat man by the fire. The fat man also takes a closer look at his forest brother. I wonder which one of them will eat the neighbor first. Sam's magic could repel the attack at any second. Looks like I'll have to share some roast boar with him. If you remember, it was the tiger who was able to get the meat. Sam demands that he not attack, agreeing to divide the spoils. After a short time, everything was settled. A contented tiger holds his well-deserved piece of meat in his teeth. He needs a piece even more than a gluttonous fat man. Good cat. He does not try to attack, having fortified himself with fresh meat. Most likely the animal is used to people if it behaves like this. It's not surprising, because the tiger was a circus animal. He missed people, and did not see the fat man as his prey at all. There is a branch of magic that studies control over people. What if we tried to domesticate animals instead of people? Then no one will have any doubts about Sam's authority. The guy completely forgot why he was in such a hurry to get into the forest. We need to quickly rescue a group of fighters who are currently in captivity. The tiger's speed may come in handy in this case. His striped friend didn't mind. Anyone can ride a horse, but who can ride a tiger? Everything would have worked out fine if the fat man had been a little lighter. It's worth listening to those who advise him to take up sports. Otherwise, we will have to put a bold end to many matters. He apologizes to the beast for this clumsy attempt. It's better to use the power of magic the old-fashioned way. This way it turned out to be even faster than on a tiger. The beast will still not be able to overcome the obstacle ahead. The leaders continue to hold the boys behind a high fence. Such a fence can only be overcome with the help of magic. It was not for nothing that the fat man noticed some oddities in this beast. The circus tag was not the only one. Left alone, the tiger begins to slowly change appearance. Soon, the striped one is replaced by the image of a girl. Just a little more, and the change in appearance will be completely completed. It's good that clothes were prepared in advance under the animal skin. Now it is difficult to understand which of the entities was the main one. All this time she understood the fat man's words. She knew where he was heading right now. A little more, and Sam will find himself in the center of a bandit lair. The main thing is that the supply of magic does not run out during the flight. Luckily, the guy lands right in the thicket. He arrived just in time. The shaman is already ready to begin today's gathering with all the leaders. 3 of the most dangerous criminals in the world of smuggling are housed here. Everyone kneels before the main boss. They revere him as their master. The shaman has already dealt with the group of elite fighters. Now it was their turn to finish the job. The boys were still in ambush, but the shaman's magic immobilized them. It won't be hard for gangsters to pick up this dirty trash. Just 1 pill will put each agent to sleep for a long time. The shaman ordered that they be delivered alive to the base territory. Sam witnesses the entire group being kidnapped. If he gives in, none of the boys will return home alive. He knows how strong the shaman's magic was. We need to do everything right to avoid the worst. An hour later, the boys are tied to poles, stripped to the waist. Oddly enough, Geneva was still wearing clothes. It's even for the best. Otherwise, she would have had a harder time than the others. To bring everyone to their senses, the bandits decide to refresh the captives. Captain Geneva immediately comes to his senses. She sees a crowd of perverts who want to film it. The hunting dog can no longer help her. There was only one familiar face in this place on the bandit side. Billy was sent here by Geneva herself, but turned to the dark side. She accuses him of betraying his own group. The boys would have torn the bastard to shreds if they could have gotten free. Billy believes that the accusations of betrayal are fundamentally untrue. He reminds us why Captain Geneva deserved this revenge. Once upon a time, a guy had a wise wife and a wonderful son. It was Geneva that erased his happiness in one day. The 4th lady of Mr. Sebastian's family is guilty of everything. Billy had been waiting an eternity for this day of retribution. In the eyes of influential people, he was always just a pawn on the board. And which of them was the king now? His accomplice understands that now the most interesting part is about to begin. Geneva does not believe the words of a scoundrel who does not care about the fate of people. He has spent his entire life destroying other people's families, and has no right to blame others. All the money he earned was stained with blood. Billy believes that the weak in spirit are not worthy of pity. They sought pleasure and destroyed themselves. It's a pity that he could talk about it with impunity. At that moment, Billy felt the machine gun with his hand. With such a toy, their entertainment becomes much more interesting. The girl is ready to accept her fate. However, the bullet misses. The scoundrel chooses another target for his brutal film. The guy can only endure unbearable pain. She would have skinned him alive if she had only gotten to Billy. Billy asks to repeat it again. Even the greatest lady can show such emotions. Someday Lucas will be able to take revenge on him if he gets out. He could have killed them all single-handedly, even without a weapon. However, besides him, there is another contender for the role of Avenger. The sentry loudly announces that an intruder has broken into the territory. Panic immediately begins among the gangsters. No one has ever managed to get into the secret lair. Billy orders that the bastard be found immediately. It is clear that it was Sam who came here, risking his life. The fat man watches them from above, waiting for the moment to storm. He saw with his own eyes all the bullying of the boys. Yes, they managed to make Sam angry. They will soon learn the price they will have to pay for this. Billy will be the first to bear his vengeance. The rest of the bastards will get to know her after him. Besides Billy, there was someone else here who was involved in torturing the prisoners. The shaman tells the guys to calm down. The group of fighters will die anyway. You just need to find someone who helps them. For some time, the gangsters comb the entire area. Everything is quiet here, which means the spy is somewhere else. Perhaps they confused it with a wild boar. But forest boars can't give orders to leeches, right? It is these creatures that fall on the heads at the fat man's command. It is impossible to find a better place to attack. There were leeches everywhere, and we would have to run through the forest to get to the base. In such a trap, they don't have a single chance. These creatures are enough to suck all the blood from the bandits' bodies. Machine guns and grenades certainly won't save you in this case. The guy feels bloodsuckers even under his clothes. Are all the forest leeches really gathered in one place? It is impossible to hide from them, and there is nowhere to expect help. Only when he raises his head does he see the owner of these creatures. Sam looks like a human, but acts like a real demon. They will scream for a long time before they die. But besides that group of gangsters, there were others. The boys hear the wild screams of their comrades echoing through the forest. Now it became really scary, but all the horrors are just beginning. Not noticing the trap, the boy fell into the dug hole. He sees the last seconds of his miserable life. The fat man immediately rushes into attack, choosing the right moment. Luckily for the guy, he lands safely on the bottom. Except that there were other creatures in the pit. Sam would surely like such a beautiful spider. Several poisonous individuals waited for their prey. The comrades are left to listen to their pitiful cries and watch. At this point, Sam had just finished with the first bastards. They open fire to kill. The fat man gets an excellent human shield in his hands. A couple of quick jumps, and he escapes the barrage of bullets. But you won't be able to escape the log as deftly. The wooden trap hit one of the bastard's skull right in the face. It's hard to shoot at a target when it's out of sight. In reality, the guy is just shooting into space. His fate was no better than that of all the other gangsters. At this point, the leader loses patience. He hasn't been able to contact them for half an hour. A bunch of idiots can't handle one fat guy. There is only one enemy waiting for them in the mountains. The shaman knows that he is able to control forest insects. You'll have to believe it's true. The sudden lull after the attack looks too suspicious. Billy decides to go all in. He demands that Sam come outside, or he will blow his friend's head off. The count went to 5, after which the trigger would be pulled. It's clear that this psychopath is not joking. In response to threats, full hives burst out of the forest. Billy mistakes them for rocks and orders them to open fire. The boys realize too late what they have done. These were not stones at all. The trick with the beehives will be the last thing they see in their lives. Immediately after the shots are fired, mountain hornets burst out of them. You definitely can't do without a flamethrower here. Billy rushes towards the pillars, leaving his comrades to die. He hopes that the hornets will eat the tied-up captive first. But the creatures seem not to notice Lucas on their way. They rush past, following the fat man's command. There's no point in hiding behind a pole when you smell like food. They fly only after him and easily catch up with their prey. Oh, damn! He begs for mercy, but the hornets only understand the language of magic. After a few seconds, the creatures completely cover the body. Unfortunately, the glasses were inedible, but everything else is quite suitable for a hearty evening. Only the most powerful magician can cancel the order of the hornets. The shaman knows what kind of magic this fat man possesses. The guy's skills are more reminiscent of childish games. But the ancient shamans long ago came up with a way to protect themselves. He throws several protective totems on the ground. Totems create a strong magical barrier for all creatures. The hornets simply crash into the barrier during a raid. One touch is enough to kill all the hornets. The shaman suggests that Sam go outside, rather stupid hide-and-seek. He guarantees the safety of the captives if the guy shows up. This proposal could have been made earlier. Nobody said that the guy was going to sit it out. Only the rules of the deal can be slightly changed. The fat man falls with all his weight on their accomplice. One can imagine how difficult it was for the poor guy. The guys beg him to come to his senses and stay in the shadows. This is what Geneva wants more than anything else. But the choice was made and Sam appeared all alone. To do this, they had to kill 100 armed gangsters. There's only a small group of bastards left. The shaman posed the most serious threat even to Sam. This master's combat magic could be compared in strength to his magic, but limitations in the level of technology were its main weakness. In other words, shaman had already reached his peak, while Sam was still developing his skills. Even his opponent understands this. A little more and the fat man will be able to reach the next level. Sam is able to identify the basic techniques of the shaman. Only in appearance does he seem to be an invulnerable master of rituals. But Teacher Logan trained the boy to fight with such opponents. He wants to know what level he has managed to reach. The shaman considers their levels to be the same. although there are some differences. The main thing is that his technique is initially much more complex. But can the complexity of technology decide the outcome of a battle? The shaman understands that the guy is not telling him something. He forgot that the fat man had the golden silkworm at his disposal. Now we need to check which of the two techniques will be stronger. Protective totems are powerless against this. There was something else the guy didn't tell me. All forest creatures were still controllable. He orders them to come to the place where the duel took place. It is useless to appeal to your aged master for help. The shaman made one mistake, but this mistake would be fatal. Defensive totems certainly won't be enough to repel this attack. At the last moment, he decides to offer a deal. They were both masters, and there was no point in wasting their energy. He advises to stop and just move towards each other. No, the fat man is forced to refuse. The golden silkworm has not gone hunting for a long time. And yet, the shaman was not ready for this. Otherwise, he would have retreated long ago. You need to take a break and think carefully. Suddenly, the fat man decides to take him into his service if he agrees. He starts with the simple, explaining the reason for the refusal. After everything that happened, people on both sides will not forgive them for their weakness. In a battle between two tigers, both will suffer, but their teams were still here. The three leaders of the groups are the main target of the mission. Taking Sam's hint, he decides to get rid of them in exchange for consent. Within his barrier, the shaman could use all skills. Sam doesn't manage to stop the madman. Instead of handing them over to the law, the old man simply roasted them. Actually, the guy needs them alive. Is that so hard to understand? After the elimination of the leaders, the mission will be considered a failure. This happens. They just didn't understand each other. It was necessary to say more precisely what the essence of the task was. However, that's not all the guy wants from the old man. The nasty fat man deceived him. If the deal doesn't go through, we'll have to use all the magic. The golden silkworm was summoned for just such occasions. Now there is no need for talk and everything will be decided in a real fight. The shaman had the most powerful ancient magic on his side. He attacks instantly, leaving the guy with no chance to defend himself. Within a radius of tens of meters, everything was covered in toxic smoke. It was difficult to see anything. But after a few seconds, Geneva sees Sam again. The shaman was also unharmed, although without a protective barrier. He was able to save the silkworm by putting it in his mouth in time. It's time to reconsider the original proposal. The shaman easily dispelled the control over the insects. This would have made anyone in Sam's position give up. But the guy is sure that the old man will not be able to repeat his trick again. He had already spent too much energy on his strike. Unlike him, the fat man's magic was almost unused. He could afford to overindulge. The quick jerks required almost no high energy expenditure. The old man seems like a pathetic nobody without his barrier. He flies off as easily as all the other bastards. After such a hard landing, you'll have to pick up the pieces. This is the first time the boys have seen something like this in real life. The shaman clearly had a hard time, but he is not ready to give up on a gifted but very stupid boy. A strange box appears in his hands. The patterns on the box resemble battle drawings of ancient magic. After a few seconds, the box door opens. Instead of ugly monsters, a cute creature comes out of there. Couldn't the old shaman have a more terrifying pet? The old man orders the beast to reveal its true nature. The huge paw becomes larger than the puppy itself. In this form, shaman's pet looks more serious. He can pounce on the guy right now if the owner orders him to. Sam made a mistake by misjudging the shaman's level. Such a strong ability was inherent in only a few. He commands the burning attack to begin. The fat man doesn't have a chance to withstand this. One hit is enough to kill anyone. The fat man was thrown far to the side, but this was only the beginning of the fight. Now you can test all the abilities of the golden silkworm. After the first attack, the silkworm was thrown back after him. He was a little hasty in his conclusions. The shaman's control over animals makes their bones as strong as steel. The golden silkworm was lucky to stay alive. He got hit hard after the attack. Sam's heart breaks at the sight of his injured pet. When he grows up, the guy will definitely strengthen his armor. Everyone else had to wait until he finished talking to the silkworm. But the time for talking quickly ran out. Now the old man must answer for everything he did here. First, we need to deal with one overgrown dog. He is ready to meet the monster face to face. A second later, they collide at one point. It's hard to watch him fight everyone alone. The shaman expected this attack to finish him off. But the guy manages to dodge, letting the monster pass. This was enough to anger the hungry beast. The games are over, it's time to play big. However, he was quite large before, but now the problems were snowballing. Anyone in Sam's place would have given up after the first attack. This fat man seemed to have gotten a taste for it himself. He dodges the blows so deftly that it makes the monster even more angry. By the way, ferocious monsters are also ticklish. You can try this if there is no other way. At some point, the fight turned into a circus. In this form, these two can be brought out to the center of the circus arena. It seems like both circus performers are enjoying it madly. The shaman is already sick of such games. He was unable to understand what his young rival's secret was. Why was the most ordinary fat guy so clever? Even his best creation couldn't handle Sam. Perhaps during his life in the mountains, he had seen stronger creatures. Commander Lucas asks him to finish and untie them. Sam is ready to offer the shaman a great deal. He will get off the giant after he unties the guys. You'll have to be patient for a little while. Damn it, the guys are so tense, like they don't get the joke. The shaman declares that the battle should only take place between masters. You can't touch ordinary people who have nothing to do with this. It's strange that he realized this so late. When Sam still lived in the mountains, even the 3 leaders were inferior to him in strength. This pet was huge, but still the same wolf. This means that he too must follow the mountain leaders. The monster was truly terrifying in its size, but even so, it was impossible to deal with the guy. Everything that happened before can be forgotten forever. The fat man was not going to tickle him behind the ear anymore. With monstrous force, he throws the wolf onto the rocks. Sam seemed to have become a wild beast himself. It's all over, the giant is defeated. All that remains is to deal with its elderly owner. The magical barrier will not withstand a long onslaught. Sam suggests pulling out his last trump card from his sleeve. However, the last trump card plays itself. The beast jumps out from under the shaman's clothes towards the guy. For a while, everyone suddenly became quiet. Was the old man's main weapon a frightened sable? These creatures are known to be equal in strength to the golden silkworm. The sable ranks first among thousands of spiritual animals. He has an idea. Since the spirit beast has come out, Sam is ready to spare the shaman. The old man refuses to admit defeat. In any case, he will die today if he does not obey. The gun happened to be nearby, very conveniently. Masters of ancient rituals also have weaknesses. He decides to destroy the barrier with one shot. The rules do not state that conventional weapons cannot be used in combat. But this is the weak point of magic armor. He asks the old man to look back. Guests have come to see him. The poisonous snakes also wanted to meet the shaman. They were quite friendly but could kill by accident. Sam just wanted to try out firearms. Meeting snakes will still be much more interesting. It worked, and the shaman agrees to any condition. Well, better late than never. The fat man no longer needs to torment the old master, but the shaman will still have to take off all his clothes. Geneva is clearly upset with the tastes of the guy she had plans for. He demands to undress so fiercely, as if he had dreamed about it all his life. He even threatens with a gun, which he may point at the shaman. He had never experienced such humiliation before. Actually, the guy was very kind somewhere deep down inside. But now it's worth forgetting about his kindness and quickly taking off your panties. They spent the whole night like this and met the dawn together. The old man has terrible taste in underwear. The gold bar wasn't the only item in his shorts. The old shaman's revenge will be worse than his cowards. The fat man will regret this and beg for forgiveness. Suddenly, a strange object falls out of the shaman's old rags. Does he really wear those balls in his pants? Looking closer, Sam sees a dragon fruit in front of him. This was perhaps the most valuable thing that could be found among the things. It's a shame he spent so much time on useless items. But now all efforts are rewarded threefold. Pitahaya grows in the hottest places and is considered the most dangerous fruit. When used correctly, it increases strength tens of times. You need to mix it with the essence of pure jade and get body strengthening. Such a gift is available to anyone who has a rare fruit. It is better to hide such a valuable thing in a deep place. The shaman was able to reach a high level only with the help of Pitahaya. Now the rare specimen has gone to the naughty boy. Sam manages to get his hands on another relic. The manuscript of the martial masters contains ancient spells. Now no one needs this old shaman's stuff anymore. However, the guy promised to let him go after a full examination. But until he calls off his vile snakes, the old man will not leave the barrier. Sam asks the pets to crawl back into their holes. Besides the snakes, a lone scorpion has found its way here. Not a single crawling creature is in a hurry to leave this place. Even after everything that happened, the old man is forced to endure humiliation. Unfortunately, Sam can't force them. Perhaps it was the hungry snakes that were attracted to the sable. But if they don't get away with the sable, they can swallow a person too. There are no other people here except the shaman. Even under the threat of death, he is forced to dispel the magical barrier. There is only one way to save your life. He activates burst attack, using up the rest of his power. It worked, and the poisonous creatures were defeated. Now nothing threatened his miserable life. Bravo, maestro. A fine shot, but it takes all the old shaman's strength. He feels completely empty. It's a pity, because the encounter with dangerous creatures is not over yet. Oops. It is gratifying that the old man has finally woken up and can continue communicating. It was turning into a real mockery. He begs the guy to answer what the hell he wants from him. Before leaving, Sam just wants to give something to the shaman. Mountain hornets can be a gift that will be remembered forever. They hid in holes underground all the time, and now they are ready to repeat their mass attack. The fat man has no intention of offending him and respects his elders. Moreover, he will not take his pet. The guy will even leave his contacts if the shaman misses snakes. The path of goodness dictates the rules that Sam follows. The rules say that all evil must be destroyed. To do this, you must destroy the soul of the dark sorcerer. These are the rules. Nothing can be done about it. By the way, this time the print turned out very beautiful. It's nice to know that you're still capable of so much. From this moment on, the soul destruction curse will slowly do its work. If Sam orders it, it will happen much faster. Just a second and the soul will be destroyed. The shaman himself will be torn into small pieces. He realizes that the fat man had this planned from the very beginning of the fight. He wanted to make him his puppet, leaving him without a drop of strength. This old man is still able to think. However, the fat man does not admit such accusations against him. If the gifts are not to your liking, he may offer something else. Now their hearts will be united, and the old man's life will guarantee Sam's life. Finally, he asks to call more often and ask about his health. Best wishes, Fat Sam. A second later, Geneva's body becomes completely free. She falls into the arms of the savior, to whom she is now indebted. The girl had been through too much today. Feelings for the guy changed and began to hint to her about one thing. In addition to female feelings, male friendship has also strengthened today. The bulletproof pants were able to withstand a point-blank shot. It was the fat man who advised him to wear these pants. Now he too owes Sam for the preservation of his dignity. But if there are problems with him, the guy can help restore strength. Now we need to decide what to do with the contraband we found. The commander suggests using it to get to the main boss. Sam advises to get it out of the forest quickly, or destroy it altogether. The second option was much easier to implement. And what to do with the one who stood behind the fat man? The shaman was humiliated and insulted that night. He will forever remember that vile act. It would be better if he got dressed. From this day on, the shaman promises to follow him everywhere. It would be better if there was a beautiful girl instead of an ugly old man. The fat man better remove the magic seal from him, damn it. But immediately after it is cast, the guy cannot undo the curse. Only the Almighty is capable of such a thing. The old man asks to answer what else he should do for Sam. It turned out that all that was needed was to destroy all the contraband found. If he is not ready to do this, one should not hope for the seal to be removed. It seems he has no choice but to have everyone go their separate ways. Otherwise, unnecessary objects will be destroyed along with the contraband. The shaman did not expect that there would be so much gunpowder in the boxes. As a reward, Sam promises to remove the seal at their next meeting. However, he will lie at his feet until the fat man dispels the spell. This dirty old man was really getting on his nerves. The return journey was fairly easy for Sam. Even the spiders were amazed at their master's dexterity. He eats the meat slowly and throws the bones wherever he wants. Most often they fall on the head of a tired old man. It's hard to decide which of these two was the real villain. Halfway through the journey, a soldier makes an urgent report. Illegal military equipment was discovered somewhere on the edge of the forest. Geneva is in full combat readiness and is taking this on itself. She orders the boys to get ready too, but the guy asks to give him 1 minute. A good old man can deal with the problem on his own. At first he refuses to do anything, but Sam promises to lift the spell if he agrees to help. Hearing this, the shaman immediately rushes into attack. The fat man himself promised him deliverance from the devil's seal. First, he will have to face off against a whole crowd of smugglers. The boss is determined to get the goods at all costs. Once this matter is sorted out, they will be able to live in luxury for the rest of their days. There is only one person standing in the way of a life of luxury. This strange savage intends to stop him. The fat man demands that he step aside if the old man values his life. He was the second fat man I wanted to kill. A little more and the boss will order the guys to grind the old man into dust. The shaman activates Rebel Soul Burst, spreading flames throughout the area. This is much scarier than a crowd of gangsters with guns. The fat man sees the last seconds of his life. Death itself seems to laugh at his dreams of wealth. Well, dying with a dream is much easier. Now the report of a private soldier will be a little different. All combat units were destroyed by one old man. He quickly returns back for the promised reward. After the terrible massacre, the old man did not have time to bring himself into the right shape. It's always worth smiling and being polite in front of Sam. This is the only way to remove the curse from yourself. Finally, the guy agrees to do it. It activates an ability that removes enchantments. If Shaman is ready, the guy can start right now. Lucas notices that there is a cunning plan hidden behind his smile. But it is too late to interrupt the removal of the seal. The fat man takes the position that runners usually start from. The shaman could not even imagine that curses were removed in this way. He crashes into the old man's body at full speed. The seal is almost broken, along with his ribs. This way it is much more reliable to achieve the effect. At first he strongly regretted that he had agreed to this. Damn it, he can't feel his legs! The broken soul and body were only the beginning of the ancient ritual. The dirty fat man deceived him just like he did on the first day. Nonsense, he kept his promise, but put another seal on it. So he kept his word and left everything as it was. It is impossible to come up with anything more clever. The new seal was ready for use. The old man was ready to kill him 1,000 times in a row. Lucas never understood what kind of magic the shaman used against the gangsters. This technique was called Rebel Soul Explosion, and was considered to be quite weak. It looks impressive from the outside, but any magician can do it. The point is that the victims lost consciousness under the influence of magic. The most terrible images are created in people's heads. At its core, the technique was the simplest of all. Sam hoped he would at least use mass extinction attack. In the end, he chose something that even a beginner would be embarrassed to use. And yet the old man does not agree with this. He claims that a fat man cannot know about all magical techniques. Everyone has their own attitude to such subtleties. Unlike him, the guy at least knows how to remove curses. He can tell the shaman one way to debunk magic. On the other hand, why would he give out his secrets to another magician? Let him figure out how to do it himself. In his hands is a potion that removes any spell. For the second time that day, Geneva asks itself the same question. Can Sam be considered a good magician, or is he an evil sorcerer? The commander is interested to know the fat man's future plans after the mission. He offers to join the Soaring Dragon Squad. If he asks, Lucas can personally submit the application for him. He immediately refuses, even if he is entrusted with commanding a regiment. A healer should practice healing and work in a hospital. It's much nicer to look at young nurses than sweaty soldiers. The commander promises to get everything the fat man asks for. Set aside. Today he saved their lives only because they were his friends. Lucas offends his feelings with his offer of a reward. Friendship is more important than anything in the world. A small house for Sam would be quite suitable as a thank you. There should be a tiny garden in front of the house and a small swimming pool behind it. There is no need to invite many servants. One gardener, cook, laundress, cleaner, security guard, personal doctor, personal driver, and a few more beautiful girls will be enough. Geneva suggests adding a personal undertaker to the list. Lucas will take on this role. The fat man takes his words back. A house without servants is enough. After a short time, the helicopter arrives at the airport. Sam had to fast for the entire flight. He didn't eat a crumb for 2 whole hours. A true friend meets him at the place. Tony will definitely take the guy to a restaurant, as he used to do. On the way, they stop at a grocery store. To keep the fat man from starving to death, he gets a bag of chips. Over the past couple of days, word about Sam has spread everywhere. We have to thank Logan's teacher for making him strong. By the way, Tony had wanted to talk to him for a long time. There is one patient, the grandson of a very influential old man. The disease is quite rare and local doctors were powerless. Sam needs to at least know the name of this disease. Red lupus. This is what it is called in official documents. This title is usually found in old novels. Tony seemed to enjoy creating new problems for him. Suddenly he realizes that he is not alone here. Someone fired a bomber right into the toilet cubicle. An unknown shooter asks not to be distracted during the mission. He hasn't been able to fire all of his ammunition for a week now. The fat man has one remedy in reserve for this purpose. The mixture will allow you to complete all tasks for the year ahead. You just need to insert it deeper and press lightly. It is important not to overdo it, otherwise it will only get worse. Within seconds, the toilet shooting mission was complete. Great job. It felt like he had squeezed out a huge elephant along with the potion. Seriously, Sam's medicine is great for clearing out the colon. Now you need to find a way to unclog your toilet. The guy didn't have such a means. He needed to run away. All the way, Vincent cheerfully spreads the stench throughout the hospital. The old man clearly had a rare talent. He finds out that the fat man is looking for the grandson of a famous person. Lately, he keeps running into someone's grandchildren. He had recently treated his second grandson, and now it was his third turn. Rich grandchildren are always sick with something. Perhaps Vincent knows who we are talking about. He asks what illness the third grandson suffers from. Red lupus. By the way, Sam has already arrived at the place and it's time for them to say goodbye. It's funny that they went to the same hospital room. Vincent's grandson actually has lupus. He asks the guy not to worry about those words about rich grandchildren. Tony and Mr. Edmund were already here. Edmund hopes that with Sam's help they can find a cure. He had never had to deal with anything like this before. The patient's symptoms can easily be confused with a skin disease. Red spots quickly affect the human skin. However, frequent seizures and relapses complicate matters. It is a protracted, intermittent, and difficult-to-cure disease. She is as cunning as a wild wolf hunting a hare. Only medications can slow down the disease for a short time. This patient's liver was affected by lupus. Seeing the guy, the attending physician asks him to stop. According to hospital rules, he is not allowed in the quarantine zone. The fat man looks more like a pig seller than a doctor. It was wrong of him to insult Mr. Vincent's savior. If there are any problems, he promises to sort everything out. Doctors only talk about the rules, but still cannot cure their grandson. By the way, Vincent was used to trusting Chinese medicine. He considers witchcraft to be a fairly similar method of treatment. Sam agrees, since the two directions have common origins. Now 2 great masters will treat the young man at once. You need to start with the medical history. The patient's skin has become yellow and there is dry mouth. Rapid pulse and fever began almost immediately. The main thing is whether it can be cured. Chinese medicine will only help alleviate his condition. The rest depends only on the will of the patient himself. Vincent promises to get any medicine. He is ready to sacrifice everything to save his dying grandson. Sam asks not to panic, the guy was still alive. Perhaps he knows how to help this young man. There are a couple of options on how to quickly activate internal forces. He was the first one to give Vincent hope. If the grandson gets back on his feet, the big guy will be forever in his debt. Nothing is clear yet, but it's worth a try. Mr. Edmund knows all about Chinese medicine. You can use wormwood as a starting point for the procedure. However, 2 more treatment methods should be used. However, it is impossible to completely cure lupus. Sam suggests trying another unusual method. The magic of the mad spirit's needles can be quite useful. Edmund didn't like the idea. He demands to get her out of his head. Doesn't Sam understand what the summoning of the mad spirit does to a mage? This is the first time Vincent sees him in this state. It's hard to understand what exactly it was that made wise old Edmund so angry. Sam begins to realize how the boy's illness is affecting those around him. A little calming magic needs to be applied. Otherwise, he will completely lose touch with reality. Done. Now we can continue talking about the mad spirit. The old man apologized for his erratic behavior a minute ago. He was just a little scared of the consequences of summoning a spirit. Vincent asks to tell us a little more about this. Acupuncture has many techniques of treatment using needles. The use of dozens of needles is already considered acupuncture magic. The crazy spirit needles are one of the 20 ancient techniques. According to the records, the ancient commander led his army to the final battle. He showed all his power, and none of the enemies could cope with the commander. He increased his strength precisely with the help of the mad spirit needles. The magic is so strong that it can kill its own bearer. However, Sam decides to take this step since other methods have not worked. Vincent promises to thank the fat man when it's all over. First, you need to get a sheet of paper to mark the injections. Every hospital doctor wants to see this with his own eyes. The old man demands that everyone return to their offices and keep their heads down. The fat man must go with Edmund to his private office. Sam reminds us how important it is to pass this technique on to future generations. Doctors will not be able to cure serious diseases with simple methods. Even after hundreds of years, they will remain at the same level of development. Finally, the old man realizes that Sam was right about everything. He asks to bring the guy everything he needs to treat the patient. Now everything was in the hands of one man. Arthur opens his eyes, trying to understand what's going on. All the needles in Sam's hands will have to be stuck into his body. Unfortunately, there is simply no other way of healing. It will hurt a little. The fat man had already managed to mark all the points where injections needed to be given. We need to do everything quickly so that the fat man has time to have lunch. A hearty dinner awaits him in the evening. There is no need to worry about that. Then the guy will invite a few friends if Vincent doesn't mind. Tony asks to move from words to action and take on healing. He acts as if the patient is dying. Edmund promises to help the boy and bring everything he needs. Tony must go home immediately and pick up 2 boxes from there. At the same time, I need to tell my parents not to expect him for dinner. They were too engrossed in talking about food. Vincent reassures his grandson, promising a speedy recovery. Arthur will do good deeds all his life if he doesn't die in the hospital. Only now did he realize that he had wasted his life. This understanding comes only when you lose everything. Suddenly he hears a conversation about leeches. In addition to the needles, you'll have to stick a couple of hungry leeches into him. In addition, the fat man took all the arsenic from the hospital pharmacy. Arthur's fun is in full swing. The healing process will not be a simple procedure for him. It was no accident that the centipede ended up in the box that Tony brought from home. One can only hope that the fat man really wants to heal him and not fry him. He can rest assured that Sam only likes fried centipedes. Arthur must gather his courage and plunge into the barrel of water. Grandpa will help him undress if he can't do it himself. There is no need to be ashamed of what is on the body of any of them. If things are that bad, he can dive into the water in his underwear. In this case, Sam will not be responsible for any side effects from the procedure. Finally, Arthur agrees to undress. At first, it feels a little strange to walk around naked in front of everyone. But when he lies down in the barrel, everything will be hidden underwater. The fat man makes final preparations for the dive. A few minutes later, he announces the beginning of the healing ritual. Edmund had already prepared needles especially for Arthur. You have to endure the pain and act like a man. Arsenic is an essential component of the medicinal broth. Sam does not spare the arsenic. It is only necessary to save the young man. Several medicinal roots are also put to use. They provide ultimate power only when combined with other plants. At the end, the guy adds a small pinch of soul to the potion. The color of the liquid changes immediately. Arthur asks to finish this quickly while he can bear the pain. The fat man is already in a hurry to finish the mixture. Well, all that remains is to stick the last needle into the neck. The last injection was the most painful for the young man. His grandfather is ready to do anything just to get the procedure over with quickly. Sam assures that everything is going as it should and it just takes time. This suffering is not endless, and in the end a healthy life awaits him. There's very little time left, he must hold out. Just 10 sharp needles in the back, no more painful than a mosquito bite. The old man was probably being disingenuous when he talked about bites. The guy screams as if he was being stabbed with sharp 2-meter-long pikes. Vincent should also gather his courage and be with his grandson until the end. After a few minutes, Arthur's voice suddenly changed. He already tolerates painful procedures calmly. The fat man orders the needles to be taken out of him. They will no longer be needed. Now let's get to the main point. Arthur must climb into the barrel and stay in it for some time. There is no need to pay attention to the ominous appearance of the elixir. The color may seem unhealthy, but magic is always full of contradictions. Realizing that the young man will not make up his mind, Sam helps him a little. Arthur immediately enjoyed bathing in the warm magical bath. It's a pity that the healing procedure did not include massage. In response, the fat man holds out a centipede to him. She can run quickly on your back and give you a wonderful massage. And to keep Arthur from moving, the barrel is covered with a lid with holes. No one should open it until the fat man allows it. It's too late to call grandfather for help. There's no turning back. The fat man hopes that Arthur is not afraid of poisonous snakes. However, snake venom can be squeezed out if it is frightened. Done. That was the last component in the healing solution. The main thing is that the patient himself does not dissolve at the end of the procedure. He needs to get really hot, then everything will work out. The healer himself wants to see the result of the first experiment. He demands that the patient not be given food or water until he is completely healed. 2 hours later, the fat man comes into the room again. He advises rinsing your grandson with cold water and letting him get a good night's sleep. After this, Sam opens the lid, releasing the guy to freedom. There is just one question about the leeches in the barrel. What were they doing to Arthur with those mouths? It doesn't matter. The worst of his life is already behind him. After the procedure was completed, Sam was faced with an unexpected confession. Even old Edmund was frightened by the sight of the medicinal bath. In fact, experienced magicians called it the poison pool. The main components were 7 poisonous liquids and 2 toxic creatures. The fat man chose only those that could be mixed in one barrel. One of the substances easily neutralized 30% of the snake venom, so the guy in the barrel of liquid stayed alive. Otherwise, he could have died, which has happened more than once. It turns out that poison can easily remove another poison. Edmund had never heard of such a method of removing poison from the body, and yet Vincent does not understand why it was necessary to put leeches into the barrel. The fat man thought in advance about how to awaken the young man's inner strength. The problem with poison treatment is that the harmful poisons need to be drained off somehow. If this is not done, the patient will turn into a bubble and burst. Even so, Edmund doesn't believe that leeches are capable of sucking everything out. However, all blood-sucking creatures always choose the best place. Most of the poison accumulates only in certain places. It turns out that Arthur's current state was under the influence of an internal force. All this talk of leeches only increased Sam's appetite. The guy was already waiting for Arthur to wake up so he could go to the restaurant. Edmund advises them to take their time. Such a large expenditure of energy requires 12 hours of sleep. If only he could see his face when he talked about this. Sam urgently needs to come up with a cure for senile dementia. He promises that the patient will be fine. Taking blood tests is mandatory after the healing procedure. Soon the young man's doctor could not believe what had happened. The disease actually disappeared, as if it had never been there. Even the giant Vincent did not immediately believe the doctor's words. If everyone is happy with the result, Sam suggests moving on to the main thing. He had already spent the whole day here. It was time to get something to eat. Vincent promised to pay all expenses after his grandson's successful treatment. Old Rupert can be proud to have such a talented son. Vincent is happy to meet the father of his virtue. Everyone is a little scared by the force with which he shakes the old man. Soon they arrive at a restaurant where a table has already been reserved. Vincent was a regular visitor to this place. After so many trials, Arthur can order any food. He decides to order the wall-jumping Buddha soup. Great choice, but what is it? The fat man's sister's choice was even stranger. The girl wants a big hairy crab. He'll let her taste the big hairy crab, right? Sam doesn't know if there is even a big hairy crab in a restaurant like this. There is a big hairy crab. Arthur asks for 3 big hairy crabs at once, and the fattest ones. Sam wants to order a 4th, but Beatrice stops him. You can't be so impudent, because he doesn't pay for the total order. It's okay, Vincent owes the fat man a lot. He tells them to order everything on the restaurant menu. Then Arthur decides to ask again how many crabs to order. 10 big hairy crabs for the whole company. And pack 10 more crabs to take with you. These are for Sam. However, the waiter does not have time to inform the kitchen about the large order. He is rudely stopped by another restaurant guest. Someone ordered his favorite, Buddha jumping over the wall soup. Anthony doesn't like it when his dinner is snatched from under his nose. He understands that the sly one is in this room. Even if the big guy was the one who ordered the soup, he should be taught a lesson. He threatens to kill them if they don't cancel the order. Instead of Buddha jumping over the wall, something else awaited the guy. Little bastard flying over the threshold is much better than Buddha. It's clear that these two were not ready. Anthony recalls that his father was an influential man. Actually, it was Arthur who ordered this soup for himself. Now it is clear who is becoming the main target. He asks for the last time to cancel the order in a nice way. Otherwise, Arthur will have to go to hospital again. Arthur suddenly realizes who is to blame for his troubles. It was Anthony who was responsible for his illness. The guy doesn't see anything wrong with Arthur's wife being without her husband. It was a mistake for him to show his cards. Vincent had been through too much during his grandson's illness. Only when sitting in the chair did this grandfather seem like a simple, kind person. But when I saw him in full height, I wanted to disappear into thin air. He must understand on his own skin what happens to his grandson's enemies. Anthony realized too late that he was wrong. Sam's first punch will seem like a light warm-up to him. The real long flight is just beginning now. During the flight, you can relax and rest a little. It's a pity that the moment of hitting the door won't be so pleasant. Sam quickly steps aside, letting the guy through to the exit. All of Anthony's friends also chose to step aside. Excellent throw. Vincent orders the guards to take them away from here immediately. He tells his assistant to get all the information about Anthony's family. The brat managed to get him angry. He was very sorry that Sam had to take part in this circus. Finally, he demands to give the bastard the biggest hairy crabs. Let him chew them on the way home. The next day, the fat man had his first day at the medical faculty. He is visibly worried, and this can be understood. For some reason, Sam decided that Tony was planning to sell him to scientists. This purchase is too unprofitable. The fat man will eat all their supplies for the year. The purpose of the visit was only to teach the basics of modern science. The boy's class teacher will be Tony's former student. He has nothing to fear in this place. Instead of Chinese medicine, Western medicine is taught here. You'll have to retrain and learn a new direction. It's nice when people close to you take care of you. He reacted so violently to this that Tony suspected a fever. Sam assures that he is completely fine. First-year students are as innocent and pure as white petals. This is who this budding scientist is thinking about. The second-year girls are also good, but not so pure and innocent. In any case, he will have something to do here. He will be the first to pick the beautiful buds from the stem. Tony warns that Sam will only get himself into trouble. This beautiful flower doesn't look like a student at all. She has been working here as a teacher for a long time. Sam immediately reaches out his plump hands to her. He wants to know which of the students here is the most beautiful. This question is first heard at the moment of first meeting with Agatha. Tony warned me to keep my mouth shut. Agatha was the wife of Tony's close friend and the head of the department. She is glad that they have such brave students this year. Some people just need to step aside. Seducing a friend's wife has always been considered the greatest taboo. Agatha believes that it would not have been possible to seduce her anyway. Tony had imagined his brother's first day differently. Sam really didn't expect that she was his brother's wife. There are many unmarried girls in this establishment. He will soon meet one of them. Her name is Emma. She is the fat boy's class teacher. However, this girl is already married. Emma entered graduate school early and quickly became a research supervisor. The fat man thinks that Emma doesn't look her age. In fact, she and Agatha were almost the same age. It seems he started studying science from the wrong end. Suddenly, the girl notices Sam right in front of her. Now he can't get out of it. The guy's behavior immediately seemed too strange to everyone. Some even decide that there is an exhibitionist standing outside the window. Was he standing naked? Besides, this is the first time Sam hears this strange long word. There's no time to explain. We need to get out of here. These psychos are running after him with knives and want to cut something off. A minute later, the guy was gone. They are looking for Sam everywhere. They even managed to check the trash bin in the yard. They forgot that there was also a box of lost things. True, 2 policemen remembered this in time. The fat man explains that he just wanted to meet the teacher. According to the cops, he fits the description perfectly. It turns out that the fat man was that exhibitionist. The police get furious when such a person stands nearby. He covers Sam with his whole body, leaving no chance for escape. His partner demands that an assault team be sent here immediately. At this moment, Tony appears nearby. He asks Sam not to set up a beach on the Institute's grounds, but it was not his choice. The guy had nothing to do with it at all. Director Gustav apologizes that Sam was confused with someone else. That psycho had clothes on top, but underneath he was walking around naked. He quickly took off his outerwear as soon as he saw a student. Sam admits that he is to blame for his excess weight. But if Tony deceives him even once more, the fat man's rage will be terrible. Tony wanted to tell him everything at dinner, but he got there first. This surprise could have resulted in beatings and a night in a prison cell. I need to eat something and calm my nerves. How is he going to lose weight if he eats to relieve stress? By the way, it is Sam that he sees as a witness at the wedding. He is still upset with his brother. The fat man will deal with him later, when Tony gets married. In that case, Leslie will now help him find an audience. His new group has some beauties who occupy the top positions in the rankings. Whether the fat man can win their favor depends on him. If Leslie helps with this, the guy will make him his second student. He promises to teach all the intricacies of magic in exchange for help in love. A short time later, Sam meets the group for the first time. Leslie asks to tell a little about herself. His name is Sam. He is 20 years old, and he does not know a single letter of the alphabet. It's funny that he can talk at all. It was necessary to start getting to know other facts about yourself. Some students found the guy suspicious. He accurately evaluates each student in the group, and he quickly realizes that there is not a single beauty here. And this is precisely why he made the long journey to the auditorium. Suddenly he notices the first contender for the role of his beloved. A little more and his efforts will be justified. Everything would have happened if the student had been a little more attractive. From the back, it is difficult to tell that the girl has a man's face. Leslie promised to show the most beautiful student of the institute. Now I'll have to throw everything away and focus solely on science. But first you need to get a good night's sleep. This makes it easier to understand the basics of modern medicine. Either way, Tony will tell him what he'll sleep through in class. Leslie's main concern was controlling the fat man. It doesn't matter that he will become the weakest student in the group. If everyone is ready, we can begin the lesson. The other students are outraged by this attitude. None of them were allowed to sleep during classes. Perhaps the call will wake him up after all. Sam immediately jumps up at his desk when he hears a loud ringing sound. Classes are over, now you can safely go to the cafeteria. After lunch, he will continue to sleep in the dormitory. The problem is that it is not so easy to find your room. Everything here was so confusing, as if he had fallen into a labyrinth. They certainly wouldn't put him in a dog kennel. He himself would not have agreed to live in a house without upper windows. Then there is only one option left. This building must be his dormitory. He finally completed this task. Now everything will be different and life will sparkle with new colors. Sam bursts into the common room like he's the boss of the room. That's right, because besides him, all the others were students. Was he put in the same room with 2 girls? The fat man wouldn't mind having such beautiful neighbors. He could bring them coffee every morning in exchange for a simple kiss. It's a pity, but his fantasies have nothing in common with the desires of girls. They quickly send the fat pervert away. In addition, a female student throws a glass at Sam. Perhaps the container with that liquid will still be useful to the girl. A guy shouldn't start a relationship with an incident. It quickly determines the trajectory of an object falling. Another second, and Sam finds himself under the ceiling. He catches her in his arms so deftly, as if he had planned it from the very beginning. It's strange why they put a student from the circus department in with them. He asks to give him a minute to explain. Sam was not a pervert and always behaved like a gentleman. By chance, he simply ended up in the wrong dorm. However, he deserved a kiss for keeping her things safe. The last phrase was superfluous. Instead of his room, he was taken to the security point. Before this, the student said a warm goodbye to him. This is the second time in one day that they have come across this student. I'd like to know what the hell happened to him. Sam tells the same story as he told the 2 students. The security guard realizes what this guy did wrong. He was looking for a building that was supposed to be a men's dormitory. But 2 days ago, part of a letter fell off that building. Unfortunately, the entire repair crew was currently on vacation. It turns out that he suffered so much because of the administration's ridiculous oversight. After some time, the guard brings him into the room. Of course, there couldn't be a single beautiful girl here. Everyone already knew about the fat man's little incident in the women's room. He became a respected person among all the freshmen. Many people envy what this guy got to see. Any of them can easily repeat this feat if they don't chicken out. But they won't get off with just a torn t-shirt. It was the best t-shirt in his wardrobe. The other 4 identical t-shirts were much worse. Damn this girl's dorm. The next day, everything repeated itself again. Sam sleeps while others study. There was only one change. The teacher went on maternity leave and was replaced by another. The boys immediately set their sights on the new teacher. From today on, Lily will work with them on fundamental theory. The fat man continues to fundamentally research his sleep. Steven asks him to wake up at least once a semester. Lily is outraged that the student allows himself to do this. This guy's face seems familiar to her. At that moment, he accidentally bit her. There is clearly something wrong with this student. Sam thought he heard some hearty hamburgers being carried around somewhere nearby. He hasn't woken up yet and is doing all sorts of crazy things. Lily demands that he come to his senses. Otherwise, she will call the principal. However, the buns are still in front of his eyes. This fat man thinks only about food. However, it is much more difficult to comprehend science on an empty stomach. No student had ever allowed himself such a greeting before. He will greatly regret this. Lily couldn't stay there any longer and just ran away. Her path led to the director's office. Tony listened to reproaches directed at his brother for a long time. Principal Gustav wants to punish a student for breaking the rules. In fact, they had been good friends for a long time. Gustav quietly suggests meeting at a restaurant and discussing everything. He then promises the girl that he will personally ensure this. Lily was lucky that the local director was so responsible, but the problems with the fat man are not over yet. It will need to be put back in place. Entering the classroom, she sees that Sam is not sleeping. Instead, he eats, even though it's not time for an afternoon snack. The boy quickly swallows the rest of the food. A couple more complaints to the director and he will definitely be expelled from the institute. But Sam gets smarter every day. We will have to resort to strict measures to expel the student. Lily demands to be told everything that she told him to learn at home. When the teacher addresses him, the student is obliged to stand up. If he doesn't learn his lesson, Lily is required to write it down in her journal. Don't be offended when Sam sees the expulsion order. The next question is, where does the small intestine begin? The small intestine is the long part of the alimentary canal. The fat man doesn't even know simple things. But as soon as she asks the next question, Lily herself gives the answer. She doesn't let the guy say a word. In her opinion, the boy does not have the necessary preparation for study. Then the question arises, how did he get here in the first place? One bad student is like a fly in the ointment. At the end of the conversation, Lily decides to call him a bad doctor. She shouldn't have said that. The truth is that a beauty can only learn by heart. When it comes to practice, everything falls into place. But even so, the guy is ready to play on her territory. He will learn everything in the textbook by tomorrow's lesson. You couldn't ask for a better bet. If Sam loses, he is forced to leave her group. Then we need to agree on what will happen if he wins. If he wins, the girl will comply with any of his demands. Excellent playing conditions. We need to find out how many books there were on fundamental theory. Steven has no idea how many there are. He can't even read one. The teacher knows that a first-year student is not capable of knowing everything, and yet the guy decides to try. He returns to the classroom with a book in his hands. Everyone around advises me to come to my senses and accept defeat. It is impossible to read a thick book in one day, but if he loses, he still doesn't lose anything. Stephen believes that his participation can already be considered a victory. This girl studied at a famous ancient university. All the students should pray for the one who dared to compete with her. They will support the fat man no matter what the outcome. I'll have to show her what a real science guru is capable of. After class, the boys spent a long time discussing their chances of winning. Almost no one believed that Sam would keep his promise. His honor and the trust of the other guys are at stake. This witch is going into the office again. Everyone jumps up from their seats as if in front of a general. The girl was able to tame the students, but one of them still does not give up the lead. Stephen suggests having a snack in the cafeteria and discussing one issue. Lily suggests that the fattest of them not go back. In response to this, a textbook flew in her direction. The girl has already allowed herself too much. Soon she herself will have to show off her knowledge of the subject. Leslie's teacher asks him to go to the board first. This way everyone else can see his brilliant performance. The guy can't wait to get going. With one leap, he almost reaches the place of honor at the board. However, it was possible to walk 3 meters on foot. But Sam wasn't used to making things too easy. It shows in advance who was the true leader in this group. Lily probably won't be able to repeat that jumping trick. It's time to get down to serious tasks. Leslie decides to start with the very first task for a light warm-up. He asks about what a blood clot is and how it forms in the body. None of them had heard anything about blood clots. Of course, the girl immediately gives the correct definition. Sam picks up on her answer by telling her something very unusual. He claims to have once personally conducted research into blood clots. Even Lily didn't know what Sam was talking about. Students from other groups gather one after another near the office. The fat man has been doing the impossible since his first year. It had only been a day since he had started studying this subject. Surprisingly, there was no one nearby who could give hints. The girl asks to stop and give her 1 minute. She says she wants to continue competing head-to-head. Well, I'll have to agree to her terms. Each of them must answer the following question. What happens when intracranial pressure decreases? This question was difficult even for Lily. She would have answered immediately if only she knew. For the first time during the entire competition, the girl doubts herself. If she gives in, Sam suggests she be honest about it. There is no point in waiting for an answer that will definitely not come. It's okay, the guy can do it for her. After dehydration of glucose molecules, a right anhydride is formed. He talks about it as if he himself is becoming the girl's teacher. The guys are filled with a sense of pride for their friend. And Lily should be ashamed of herself for such terrible preparation. He is forced to report that Lily has lost. Tomorrow evening she will have to treat Sam to something sweet. The fat man will choose the dress for the candlelit dinner. She may be free today. This guy's no slouch. Leslie didn't expect him to show such serious preparation. While they were checking their knowledge, the rest of the students went to the cafeteria. The fat man couldn't miss this. The dining room was the most important place for a lover of knowledge. You'll have to be patient for a bit because of the huge queue. The worst thing is that there may not be any food left. Sam notices his classmates in the middle of the line. If he stands nearby unnoticed, it will shorten the waiting time. Sam decides to take this risky step. Nobody likes a trickster who wants to cut in line. Now we need to pray that they leave some food for the guy. Suddenly he hears a familiar voice from the crowd. Stephen understands how hard it is for a hungry fat man, and yet students may revolt again. Stephen was smarter and took a seat for 2 in advance. Even so, they risk being left without the most delicious thing. Turning around, he suddenly sees empty seats in the neighboring buffet. The food in that buffet is much more expensive than in the usual one. But the treats there are much tastier. Any student would start drooling at the sight of such treats. You need to do this at least once in your life. Today was his day, which meant he could spend some money. He should take a look at the expensive buffet menu for himself. When a guy opens the menu, he immediately understands everything. However, now his empty stomach dictates the order list. Finally, he stopped. Then I added the pork fillet to the egg white. It is understandable why there are no long queues in such places. Almost no one can afford even a modest lunch, except for those students who grow up in luxury from childhood. By the way, the fat guy at the table burst into his girlfriend's room. Nick had heard about that impudent fellow for a long time, but now it was his personal business. Every student knows how dangerous Nick can be. In the company of his boys, he has nothing to fear. He decides to teach him good manners like a man. I'll have to interrupt the hungry fat man's feast. He ordered so much food it was as if there was a wedding celebration there. There's nothing easier for Sam than to eat all of this. Stephen got one small plate, but even her boyfriend won't have time to empty it. A strong slam of the door easily ruins the appetite. It's a shame their first dinner together ended so awkwardly. The fat man will not forgive those who fell into the room for the cold food. There were several dead people there, waiting for their time. Among these bastards was Nick. He was clearly bored with life. His main sin was scattering Sam's food. At the same time, good-natured Stephen suffered. The guy couldn't stop the crowd of bullies at the threshold of the cafeteria. Sam had no face, which meant Nick would soon have no head. The most painful thing is to realize that there is no more food. One of the bastards needs to be made into a cutlet. Although Nick himself wanted to make something similar out of the fat man, he doesn't tolerate it when someone takes over the leadership position. Sam has met a lot of freaks in his life, but this is the first time his fist feels so good. It's like it was made to smash Nick's face with. Carefree flight, that's what it's called. The landing is always hard, you have to get used to it. None of the comrades dares to enter into a fight. Yes, it is unpleasant, but it could not be otherwise. It's foolish to hope that this is the end. It all just begins with the approach of the hungry fat man. He's ready to break his bones for interrupting his dinner. Something terrible is approaching from the starboard side. A monstrous weight falls on Nick's fragile body. This is the end for sure now. It is impossible to watch such a scene without pain. You should have rushed to help your friend earlier. Then they still had a chance to prevent the nightmare. But now they can only make their friend's situation worse. This is exactly what was being discussed. Sam decides to turn all his pockets inside out. While they are resting, he counts their money. Now they rightfully belong to Sam. The living 3-layer sandwich owed him another 100. At this moment, Steven comes to his senses. It's a shame to disturb such an idol for the sake of some 100. You can collect the debt from Nick at the next meeting. While he warms himself under a pile of bodies, they head to another restaurant. It will probably be much more comfortable here. The smell of fried meat spreads throughout the street. The guy can handle this alone. He suggests starting right away with Shashlik in Barbecue Town. This is what the face of a happy person looks like. By that time, Nick's comrade had already tracked them down. He gives the exact coordinates of the fat man. If they stay there for 15 minutes, Nick will have time to arrive. This time he is accompanied by a support group. With their help, you can barbecue one fat pig. Time does not wait, we must hurry. This waitress really loves hungry guests. She is ready to take an order from 2 young visitors. For the sake of your tips, you need to treat them politely. However, the low prices on the menu are more pleasant than any words. Sam doesn't understand why there are so few people with such prices. Perhaps it is because the restaurant is poorly located. The fat man could eat everything, including the pages of the menu. The girl advises to try the ram penis, it's their signature dish. Sounds good, worth a try. While the penis was being grilled on the coals, there was some noise outside the restaurant. Some people are rushing to get inside. The guys don't even notice the passers-by on the road. A little more and a serious mess will start here. But it's better for this poor guy not to stumble upon compliments. Nick is not someone to be trifled with. He demands that everyone disperse if they are not tired of life. Otherwise, he can easily help with this. The guys from the local gang don't like humor either. The restaurant's doors are always open to any guests. Steven notices the guys right away, but he needs to keep his cool. You can pretend that nothing is happening. After all, they want to eat too. And yet the guys are acting too weird. It's okay, Sam promises to solve the problems. Moreover, they have already finished. Both friends approach the bar to pay for dinner. Steven keeps his finger on the pulse. Nick's friends also keep an eye on them. Suddenly the order bill becomes 10 times higher. Almost 2,000 for one dinner. Steven explains that it shouldn't exceed a couple of 100. According to the waitress, there are no mistakes on the menu. But can 100 turn into 1,000? Steven will complain to the police if the order is not recalculated. Some people didn't like to see dissatisfied people in the establishment. Kurt suggests complaining directly to the president if you like. But that won't change the amount of the check they pay. That's what Kurt said. It's not up for discussion. The fat man must be pleased with the local cuisine. By a strange coincidence, Nick is sitting next to the owner. This cannot be a simple coincidence. If there is no money, they can pay with broken bones. A tempting offer when it comes to Nick's bones. Suddenly, it is Steven who is the first to rush into the fight. He is ready to deal with a whole crowd single-handedly. He will definitely not be forgiven for such insolence. Kurt warns that the guy will pay in full for this. Steven tells the fat man to get out of here while there is still time. He is surrounded on all sides and will no longer be able to break out. Now his fate is in the hands of those who pass judgment on these streets. While the fat guy is here, he should be caught too. Sam asks to wait 10 minutes until his friends bring the money. However, it is not about money after Kurt's honor was hurt. Nick tells him not to worry about the fat guy's friends. They will regret it themselves when they realize that Sam set them up. The first thing the guy does is dial the number of the hunting dog. Nick also knows a couple of numbers of kind, helpful guys. The hunting dog may return his old debt to him. The town of Barbecue is located near the medical institute. 30 minutes later, guests appear on the doorstep. They don't look like ordinary restaurant patrons. This is the look people usually have when entering a prison cell. Nick realizes that the guys were really quite serious, although they behave like real children. But there are still people who should be respected. This man came here at Nick's personal request. He didn't like it when his friends were offended. Henry wants to look into the eyes of the one who dared to do this. Commander Lucas is not against a battle of wills. It is impossible to surprise him with local gang leaders. During his service, he often wrote them one-way tickets. Lucas advises them to part ways on good terms, while everyone is still alive. The boy doesn't yet know who stands in front of him. It's strange that the fat man himself couldn't deal with that arrogant brat. He acts like he's never been hit in the head in his life. Suddenly a bank card flies through the air. This card could have cut off his head. The commander promises to pay for Sam and they will leave peacefully. Looking closer, Nick sees a gold Swiss bank card. Besides strength, these guys had serious money in their hands. By the way, Geneva was about to arrive at the restaurant. It looks like Henry has a worthy rival now. We are not talking about a fragile girl at all, although she could also match him in strength. Geneva was not in the right outfit for hand-to-hand combat today. The fat man sees her in an evening dress for the first time. Sam listened to everything that Hunting Dog had to say. He liked looking at Captain Geneva better. Nick is also delighted with the tall beauty in the dress. He immediately suggests spending this wonderful evening together. The guy got ahead of everyone while they were wasting time discussing. Speed of decision-making is what this nimble fellow is good at. True, he lacks masculine charm. Geneva prefers courageous young men. These brats are better off courting freshmen. He had never heard such humiliating words in his life. A little more and she will pay for this humiliation. Her speed was much higher. Besides speed, Geneva knew a couple of great tricks. Now Nick knows them firsthand. It's clear that this devil won't get away with something like this. In such cases, Henry forgot about polite manners. The girl herself is asking for rudeness. With a huge gun in her hands, she can afford it. Henry can't be scared by a simple lighter. He has some real big toys. I wonder how often his gun can fire. And will it be able to fire if the owner is dead? The answer can only be obtained after the murder. Luckily for Henry, he survived. All the wrath of Captain Geneva fell on the little scoundrel. Even these two didn't expect this from her. There are enough cartridges in the clip to feed all the restaurant guests. She will do it, there is no doubt about it. Just like she almost killed Nick a minute ago. Kurt warns that killing a civilian will send her to prison. Besides, there were at least 20 gangsters in this building. He demands that the gun be removed from Henry's face immediately. It's good that Kurt himself admitted to the presence of gangsters. She has never put a whole pack of bandits behind bars. Commander Lucas reloads his shotgun. Now these sons of bitches need to freeze and not move. Steven didn't know the fat man had such cool friends. Henry, too, only found out about this at shotgun point. Sam is eager to get the fun part started. In all militants, after negotiations, shootouts begin. He watches action movies too often. Sometimes a kind word can convince even a gangster, especially if there's a shotgun pointed at him. Connor agrees that these conversations need to end. Today was her evening. For arresting a group of bandits, she will receive a new promotion. For the last time, Nick demands that the lawlessness be stopped. His father will not forgive such a prank and will take revenge for his son. He already sent him a message and Dad will be here soon. Henry knows that Nick is putting his father in danger of being shot. It becomes clear that the brat's father was Mr. Tim. He is known for his cruelty to those who raise their hand against their loved ones. But even Tim had never encountered such a problem. I should have explained this simple truth to Nick earlier. It's too late now. Mr. Tim has found out about everything. 20 minutes later, the streets became restless. A couple dozen bald guys went out for an evening stroll. Their leader reports on the radio that they have arrived at the location. 10 minutes later, Mr. Tim arrives at the scene. His beloved son is being held captive in this restaurant. Right now, Nick was wounded, and it would be worse if he was killed there. First of all, you need to remove those who are close to your son. Golden Dragon and Smiling Tiger will handle this problem. Tim enters the hall, which smells of gunpowder and fried meat. His son is sitting on the floor. He has been through a lot this evening. But now it was all over. Dad was in the building. Mr. Tim will definitely find out the name of the bastard who shot his son. Only Henry knows that Nick would have been better off staying home. Then his father wouldn't have had to find himself in this situation. He is sure that only men have gathered here. But among them was a woman with the same steely character. She was the one who shot his son less than an hour ago. Along with Geneva, there was a detachment of elite fighters here. Tim's boys also brought adult toys with them. It's not just government agencies that have access to firearms, but only elite troops can handle it well. The situation was becoming more dangerous with every second. The fat man had a weapon in his hands that no one else had. One of them has to fire the first shot. A simple youth quarrel can turn into a massive shootout. Unlike Tim, Commander Lucas is ready for this. Nick still doesn't understand what kind of mess he got himself into. He demands the guys to open fire to kill. While there is still a chance, we need to kill the entire group of fighters. Roger had long wanted to shut this bastard's mouth. However, someone from the crowd did it instead. The fat man had another glass in his hands if needed. Steven begs him to take cover. The shooting is about to start. Commander Lucas advises the same thing. The guy is not wearing a bulletproof vest. However, he only invited them for a barbecue. He can handle this pile of garbage without anyone's help. The guys hadn't heard such insolence addressed to them for a long time. The big guy promises that Sam will be the first to go to the next world. He was a little hasty with his promises. It was not for nothing that the guy was considered the best at taming creatures. But the matter does not end with just taming spiders. It's just as easy to tame a dozen idiots. A few more seconds of waiting. Voila, the trick worked! Now you can give them a good spanking with a resounding slap. Lucas was expecting at least a man-to-man fight. Now they won't leave a single wet spot from the fat guy. We urgently need to cover him with dense fire. The big guy is still confident that he has everything under control. He orders to grind into powder the one who has long deserved death. But that's the whole trick with domesticating people. Sam reminds us that gangsters are no different in brains from spiders. They won't move until the fat man tells them to. Invisible threads from his hands have already pierced bald heads. You can threaten the guys with punishment as much as you like. Mr. Tim demands that they be brought to their senses immediately. Roger had encountered this kind of magic in the past. They will never listen to anyone's orders again. But that slap still haunts Roger. The second slap was stronger than the first. The poor guy was spun around so much that he vomited in the air. This fat guy likes to slap everyone. He also really enjoyed knocking out teeth. It was a real challenge for Roger. He tries once again to order the blockheads to attack. Such orders are easily cancelled by repeated magic. Roger doesn't fully understand the complexity of the situation. Bald guys no longer serve in his gang. They will forever act on only one command. Only one person has control over them now. This man was behind him. The guy decides to go all in and deal with Sam himself. Without even turning around, he dodges the blow. Such attempts always lead to the same outcome. A sharp needle appears in Sam's hands. He can not only heal with needles, but also use them in combat. One press on the right point is enough to paralyze anyone. The levels of these two were too different. If Sam wanted, he could easily end his life. Smiling Tiger can't smile anymore. However, the fat man found it amusing to watch him. The Golden Dragon finally understood everything. It was stupid to fight a guy who had magic at his disposal. It's a pity he realized this so late. These 8-legged creatures are already everywhere. They completely cover the ceiling and quickly descend downwards. It feels like Sam summoned all the spiders here. Geneva can't believe this is happening for real. They actually obey the fat man's orders. The Golden Dragon becomes the main target of the hungry spiders. Only on the surface did Sam seem like an easy target. In fact, they have never met a stronger opponent. Why carry a gun when your hands don't obey you? Why wear a head that doesn't have an ounce of brain in it? Why wear glasses if there is no sunlight? It's time to take these puppets under total control. They are mindlessly ready to carry out any order, but Geneva is against it. A special squad will arrive here soon and sort everything out. It turns out that he won't be the one rewarded for catching the bandits. Then why is he trying all this time? Damn it. Why does he say 2 extra words? He shouldn't have called Geneva a brainless woman. It will end badly. I need to make amends to the girl as soon as possible. He's heading towards the zombified bald idiots. These idiots must immediately surrender their weapons and kneel at the wall. There's one more task for their hairy friend. His main mission becomes finding the best kebab maker. 30 minutes later, the cops arrive on the scene. They just need to arrest a group of gangsters. Mr. Tim was the most valuable character of the whole bunch. They don't want to interfere with Captain Geneva completing his mission. Absolutely the right decision. The most important work is taking place at these moments. You need to eat all the delicious shashlik and other delicacies. We need to do this quickly, leaving nothing for the police. Kurt hadn't eaten anything since the morning either. The commander knows that the shashlik was bought at someone else's expense. However, now is not the time to think about it. We need to think about what else we can get out of that idiot Kurt. He needs his own home where Sam can keep his pets. He is sure that Gangster Kurt will be happy to help with this. Geneva can also help with something if he tells something. She is interested in information about the zombification of people. Her feminine charms won't work on the fat man. He told her too much again. She had no intention of seducing the guy in exchange for information. But she acts as if that's exactly what she wanted. The problem is that Sam likes girls with European appearance. In other words, Geneva just wasn't his thing. Actually, they had an interesting conversation. Her intonation cannot be confused with anything else. She was upset after Sam rejected her. Only now has Geneva itself realized this. Maybe Hunting Dog could explain to him what the matter was. He will tell about it right after the shashlik is eaten. Connor spent a long time trying to figure out what kind of meat the kebab was made from. Kurt explains that it's made from the best chicken butts in the country. He hopes that the guys will appreciate the delicate taste of this delicacy. Hope dies last and Kurt is still alive. After recognition, everything can change in an instant. His pleas for mercy continue to echo throughout the street for a long time. The guy guarantees that he personally washed them from bird droppings. He will have to eat the remains of his culinary masterpiece himself. The commander reminds that his boss is already in handcuffs and awaiting interrogation. He will go to prison for a long time for possessing illegal weapons. Kurt begins to suspect that this was a simple test. He claims that he told the officers everything he knew. From that day on, he decides to conduct honest business and give up extortion. He didn't seem to get the hint when Lucas offered to become the new leader. He will get everything he dreams of for simply cooperating with the authorities. Without the help of the commander, the guy will never rise higher. He will take 30% of the profit for himself and give the rest to Lucas. Such an offer is only coming now. Later it will be too late. Kurt quickly agrees. From that day on, Lucas becomes the secret leader of the criminal world. Sam won't be able to keep the main secret a secret. He never told what he did with those trained spiders. The fat man asks to keep this secret to him and never ask again. Geneva remembers that he himself promised to tell her about spiders. In fact, the 8-legged creatures were his pets. Some people have dogs and cats, but Sam prefers spiders. Besides them, there is another pet, This is his personal pride. He decides to show it to others for the first time. The whistle quickly spreads across the street and the pet hears it. He has been waiting for his master's call for a long time. The fat man is easy to spot from the roof of the abandoned building. Nature itself has given this feathered creature unique vision. He has no equal in the sky. The eagle hears the call of its owner perfectly and flies straight to him. Kurt is already flying in his dreams, not noticing his approach. At first, it was difficult to understand what was going on here. The bird nearly knocks him off his feet as it flies quickly over his head. You should have ducked your head earlier. No one has ever managed to enlist the help of such a pet. If you don't film it, no one in the department will believe it. He was a little hungry and arrived just in time. But even an eagle doesn't want to eat meat without spices. He sprinkles the shashlik generously with red pepper. Black pepper is also good for enhancing the flavor. Only after this does the eagle begin its meal. Sam often cooked pork, lamb, and tofu when he lived in the mountains. He was always lazy, so the bird learned to take care of itself. The girl wanted to pet the eagle. It was pleasant to the touch. In its entire life, Geneva has never seen anything so big. The eagle may belong to a rare species. As a child, the boy often rode on his back. Initially, he only listened to the teacher, but Sam was able to lure him away. If there was vodka on the table, the bird would happily drink a glass. And yet, spiders were his most faithful pets. The girl notices one of them nearby. Sam had already decided that spiders had become uninteresting to her. After the eagle, no one will waste time on trifles. However, the ghost spider deserves special attention. Local gangsters will have to see him in action more than once. Spider foam is highly toxic, especially during mating season. This little pet can easily become a big problem. You need to feed it more often so that the spider is always ready. The main thing is that the eagle is also well fed when it meets the ghost spider. A person bitten by it experiences hallucinations for a few seconds. They become an excellent weapon in the hands of an experienced master. Victims quickly turn into servants, carrying out any orders. In modern terms, it is an excellent psychogenic toxin. Geneva remembers once reading accounts of these creatures. Poisoned victims become puppets in the hands of a puppeteer. Even gangsters quickly become obedient children. At this point, Steven is more interested in watching the second pet. Sam advises him not to start a career as a doctor after college. By working with a fat man, he will be able to get rich faster. Never in his life had Steven been offered such a high salary. Then it's worth listening more carefully to the proposal. Around him, even birds change their way of life for the better. Geneva should also think about her new profession. Today, you can relax and forget about strict rules. A bottle of good alcohol will quickly set you on the right path. It's a lot easier to get these guys drunk than it seems. It's nice that Kurt agreed to pay for their dinner at gunpoint. They returned to the hostel late at night. All the students had long since dispersed to their rooms to sleep. Only those who were tired of waiting for their neighbors to come home remained. David does not regret that he decided to wait for the guys to return from the restaurant. However, the guy notices one strange thing. The room smells like there's a pet in it. You have to believe that there was more to David and Stuart than just friendship. However, the smell could have come from dirty clothes. To think about this, I need to have another dinner after the restaurant. The fat man simply couldn't look at the food calmly. It's good when other guys eat little. They fought for a long time to be placed together. Now it's clear why they accepted even a newcomer so well. Seriously, the guys really did smell terrible. A rare armpit disease has struck 3 people at once. Only Sam can fix what others can't. It's scary to remember how much money was spent on examinations. The fat man knows everything about treating smelly male armpits. Large sweat glands secrete unsaturated fatty acids. Sometimes the reason is a banal inheritance of the disease from the father. To Sam's surprise, he wasn't the only one who understood diseases. Stuart explains that sweat glands are sometimes naturally oversaturated. The apocrine sweat glands will have to be completely removed. The disease will disappear, but it will be impossible to fully recover. Sam suggests one well-known method if they are willing to be patient for a little while. He will cure them absolutely free of charge, but you need to be prepared for pain. After all the humiliation, the guys are ready to do anything for the sake of healing. They are not the only ones who have had to endure humiliation. For the first time in her life, Lily lost to a simple student in knowledge. Tonight they will have a candlelit dinner according to the terms of the bet. Sam seems to sense that Lily would have agreed to dinner anyway. In the evening, she will wait at the entrance to the men's dormitory. The main thing is that he doesn't forget to pick out a decent suit. She has been acting very strange lately, although the girl smells much nicer than them. Lily's car was as impressive as its owner. Usually it's the guy who comes to pick up the girl in a car like this. But the fat man never had a Ferrari, unlike his teacher. I wonder how she earned money for that expensive car. Is it really that much money to teach at an institute these days? Lily asks him to dive into the car faster. Just 2 days ago, it was hard to believe that this would happen. Lily warns that she is only fulfilling the terms of the bet fairly. But this was only the beginning of her little evening fun. Today is a great opportunity to enjoy a candlelit dinner. The girl always followed the rules. Even now you need to fasten your seatbelt as the law requires. It's much harder to buckle up when you're fatter than everyone else. The students can't believe their eyes, but the beauty wanted it herself. She disappeared from sight, as if she was looking for something downstairs in the cabin. Done, now we can go to the restaurant. All that was left for those losers outside the windows was to burn with envy. Women's heels look great on car pedals, especially when it comes to a red Ferrari. Sam had never driven so fast before. Lily was not only a good teacher, she was also an excellent driver. At the entrance to the restaurant, she is met by a gallant young man. He suggests leaving the car parking to him and just having some fun. Most likely she was a frequent guest here. The same cannot be said of Sam, whom no one knew. You'll have to open the car door yourself and forget about special treatment. It was an honor for the guy to help only Miss Lily. The fat man could handle it himself. It's not hard to understand why men loved her so much. There's no point in arguing, but Sam will still remind the scoundrel of this act. Perhaps the girl wanted to see this from the very beginning, but humiliation was not part of the fat man's plans. Worse still, he was rudely refused entry. Sam is strictly forbidden from entering without an expensive suit. Is it possible to refuse a person if he has reserved a table? Alas, a suit, tie, and leather shoes were mandatory in the wardrobe. These rules were invented a long time ago, and they must be followed. Such nonsense can make anyone angry. It is clear that they enjoy dictating rules of conduct to him. The fat man warns that he will soon regret his arrogant tone. He won't have long to feel his superiority. By the way, this clown's costume would look good on Sam too. At the same time, you can save time on going to the store. He decides to borrow the suit for a while, returning it after a candlelit dinner. If there are no other stupid rules here, you can enter the hall. Lily must be around here somewhere. She sips the cool drink, enjoying her little revenge. The fat man was able to take the bet, but there still won't be dinner with her. He's probably sitting at the entrance and thinking about how to get into the restaurant. However, an unexpected surprise awaits the girl. Incredibly, the guy was able to fix the situation much faster. Now no one will take him out even by force. He is dressed according to all the rules and is ready to share this wonderful evening with her. Sam reminds him that the lady is paying for the candlelight dinner tonight. By the way, this cozy place is quite nice. In such an atmosphere, some new sensations are born in the soul. Although Lily feels nothing but irritation, one little kiss will immediately correct the awkward situation. The girl feels sick at the mere thought of a kiss. She asks the waiter to offer her something new. The special cream soup was a recent innovation by the chef. Now all that remains is to find out what her boyfriend of today will order. It's a pity that there were so few meat delicacies on the menu. He asks for the same thing as Lily, hoping to hear the waiter's advice. Suddenly, the girl asks him to speak to the guests, according to all the rules of the restaurant. The waiter immediately switches to French. He tells special methods of cooking dishes. The fat man won't be able to understand a word, which means he'll end up looking like a fool again. A little more, and the fat man will start answering him in Chinese. Instead, he suddenly decides to do things a little differently. He liked one of the methods that the waiter politely told him about. Now it was his turn to answer the idiot in French. He actually knows French and asks for more wine. She was probably expecting another Sam fiasco. It turned out that the guy was able to learn a few phrases from French films. This was enough to make a simple order. 20 minutes later, escargot in French style was served. But the blockhead did not hear the details of this order well. Sam asked for 3 portions of snails. The waiter explains that in France, particular importance is placed on precision. Sorry, but he couldn't be wrong about such an important detail. It no longer mattered to the girl how many snails were on Sam's plate. The important thing is that the fat man still spends this damn evening with her. After a short time, the girl waited for her dish. The dish was as big as her brutal appetite. You'll have to be the bad girl for a while. Otherwise, it is impossible to put the impudent fat man in his place. At this moment, her old friend addresses Lily from the stage. The young owner of the restaurant is happy to see their main guest. He asks to greet her warmly with a stormy ovation. She was probably a local celebrity here. It is no coincidence that all the guests became so animated at the sight of this girl. She apologizes for slightly disturbing their rest with her simple singing. However, she enjoys being with the best people of her city. Lily really knows how to act in public. Suddenly, he realizes that Lily is planning another prank. Instead of her performance, she invites the fat man to go on stage. According to the restaurant rules, every new guest is required to sing. If he refuses, the administration may ask him to leave. Now, instead of a spoon, a microphone appears in Sam's hands. Lily asked for this shame herself. Every guest knows that the fat man came to the restaurant with her. It takes some time to remember how to play the piano. In fact, he has never done this before and is learning as he goes. Sam would have been better off staying at the table and finishing his dinner. The guy asks for forgiveness. He just hasn't played for a long time. Suddenly, plump hands gently lay on the keys. He decides to sing a love song in French. The words of the song touched her soul so much that Lily couldn't resist. She wanted to see him outside the door, but instead she finds Sam fans. His work truly made hearts flutter. Even the best guest pianists can't play like a fat man. In a fit of emotion, the guy is about to rip his clothes off. You need to throw off everything unnecessary and just give in to the magic of music. This restaurant has never seen such a spectacular ending. After the performance, a little surprise awaited the guy. The gold card becomes a personal thank you from the owner of the establishment. He asks Sam to come to them more often and please the guests here. We just need to clarify whether he can come in his own clothes. It turned out that even a naked fat man would be the most welcome guest. These two were definitely conspiring against the young girl. It's hard to understand how the fat guy manages to stay afloat. He hopes that the French romance was to her liking. Lily suddenly asks not to be distracted by conversations while the dinner is still hot. By the way, the owner himself offers to warm up the dinner. His opinion is too changeable. The guest's opinion remains the same. They are absolutely delighted. It's a pity that Lily didn't introduce them to her friend earlier. Sam admits that they weren't a couple yet, but after this dinner they will probably go to her house. This fat man knew how to make the most of a good moment. True, first you should ask the girl's opinion. She tells him to pay and come downstairs quickly. There's nothing you can do. You'll have to pay for the total order. It would be better if he didn't hear the order amount for one small dinner. He ate almost nothing, but already got into big debt. It was another trick of the devil who set everything up. The fat man admits that he doesn't have that kind of money. As a sign of friendship, everything is forgiven him today. Without missing a chance, Sam asks for a bottle of wine on the house. It is true what they say. Impudent people are always happy. True, the girl's attitude was rather bad. She left him in the restaurant on purpose to humiliate him. He'll deal with this girl a little later. Suddenly, someone's threats were heard from behind. The guys demand that he give up his wallet if the fat man values his life. They'll break every bone in his body if Sam argues. This was the end of a wonderful evening with a girl. But who said Sam is against such an ending? You need to thank them, because it makes it easier to release anger. If they hadn't been nagging, he would have had to drink wine. A good fight can easily make it go away. You cannot restrain yourself and hit with all weapons. This bastard can handle anything. He must be a man. The last blow is always the most painful. It looks like the guy is really going crazy. They themselves wanted to break his legs a few minutes ago. The will of these scum breaks much faster. Now the fat man himself demands that the guy empty his pockets. A broken neck is already guaranteed for him in case of refusal. At that moment, someone's voices were heard behind them again. It's clear that gangsters don't wander around in crowds with flashlights. The policeman demands that the guy surrender and let his victim go. True, the victim takes to his heels even earlier. We'll have to explain the reason for the fight somewhere else. The police station has become a familiar place. For the umpteenth time this week, the fat man sees bracelets on his wrists. He knows by heart the questions the police ask. It felt like he was back home again. The officer demands to know why he beat the poor guy. There is information that the fat man tried to rob him. Sam claims that everything was the other way around and he became a victim of bandits. But an experienced police officer was able to record his speech on a dictaphone. He plays a recording where threats are clearly heard. Sam actually demanded money from that guy. However, this happened after he miraculously fought back. Where were the police when the gangsters attacked him? The fat man's words are hard to believe after everything he saw. It's stupid when they try to make a criminal out of a saved victim. Suddenly, the officer asks a leading question. He wants to know if he really is studying at a medical school. It turns out that the fat man was able to pass the difficult entrance exam. Besides, his name seems familiar to the officer. However, no one at his own university knows Sam's name. There is no name in the database because the brother illegally brought the student. Until he admits his guilt, he will have to hang around at the police station. Sam asks to come to their senses and not to put a decent citizen behind bars. In response, the officer slams the door loudly. He had never experienced so much humiliation in one evening. It's hard to endure if you can break the handcuffs. This causes quite a stir among the officers. They don't believe that an ordinary person is capable of such a thing. A little more and the fat man will destroy the entire police station. The hour has come when Zara must take everything into her feminine hands. At first glance, she might have appeared to be a fragile young girl. In fact, more than one gangster has passed through it. Now the fat man will find out what Zara can be like when she's angry. She demands to know what he was planning to do here. To be honest, Sam doesn't mind such interrogations. He is just a student who is always happy to communicate with girls. Zara had never seen a simple student break the chains of bracelets. The fat man insists that he was one of the best students of the semester. He even compares himself to the greatest masters. Zara cannot be fooled by cheap statements. If the suspect is staring at your chest, he certainly couldn't be worthy. She demands for the last time that he confess everything. Then she should hear that Sam really is the best doctor in town. Zara can ask anyone, even the director. Then you'll have to prove it right now. Sam notices strange irregularities in her menstrual cycle. That's why she has such a hard time sleeping at night. Zara has to sleep naked without a blanket because of her rare illness. In response, the girl demands to explain how he knows this. He knows much more than she thinks. There is no need to be so nervous because he is a simple doctor. The other officers now knew about it too. Zara asks him to leave while she interrogates the suspect. But the man also suffered from illnesses and needed help. A serious digestive problem is visible to the naked eye. In addition, Sam clearly sees the progression of arthritis. Problems with urination will only get worse with age. No, the fat man is definitely hiding something about his past. Although the guy simply named the illnesses that are common to all old people. The officer will be glad if he helps cure them. The main problem with urination has been bothering me for a long time. For healing, you will need Mongolian dandelion. You need to put a white sheet of paper on the table. Then put your hands together and press hard on the plant. You need to press very hard until the dandelion is flattened. If he can, it's better to hold it like this for at least 5 minutes. The old man did everything he could, but his strength was no longer what it used to be. The policeman hadn't been this tired for a long time. Now the plant must be thrown into any convenient trash can. Dandelions should be crushed and then thrown away 3 times a day. It is difficult to understand how this is connected with his serious illness. When an old man stands on his toes, he shifts his center of gravity forward. By reducing pressure, it relieves the strain on the bladder. In ancient times, a similar technique was called grateful kidneys. He asks you to lift your shoulders, allowing the blood to flow faster. In addition, the teeth should always be clenched tightly. The rest of the police officers try to repeat everything after the old man. 10 minutes later, a queue for procedures had formed in the department. Then the grateful officers let the boy go home. Finally, he will be able to relax and eat home-cooked food. It's nice when you come across trusting old men among the officers. Suddenly, the guy notices his crawling pets on the balcony. Not long ago, he fed them. Why did they go hunting? Besides them, there was another creature nearby. He feels the breath of death on the back of his head. Sam turns around sharply, but there was no one behind him. Something strange happened during his absence. He chooses the fastest way to get into the house. For some time, I wanted to take a good look at everything. To top it all off, there was a strange stench in the yard. Someone is trying to harm his loved ones. This cannot be allowed. By the way, he fed his pets too often. Some of them could do with a little dietary food. Suddenly, a loud animal roar is heard from behind. A creature emitting a strange smell stands behind him. Even in the mountains, he had never encountered such a creature. The lizard instantly releases toxic poison at the guy. It's only by a miracle that he manages to jump to the side. It's scary to imagine what would happen to him if the poison entered his body. No, it was definitely not an ordinary lizard. Besides its size, the monster had 2 heads on its body. The fat man realizes that he has encountered a real demon. The 2-headed monster exudes a powerful dark aura. It seemed that the master had long ago exterminated all such creatures. If this is so, then where did this green overgrowth come from? Time is running against Sam as the monster accumulates poisonous saliva in its mouth. A second later, he tries his trick again. Decent creatures should not spit in other people's houses. He was certainly not a decent lizard. The creature had an indecently large number of teeth. We need to quickly take him away from here to another place. While Sam is here, the demon threatens everyone else. It would be better to lure him further into the mountains. He won't be able to figure out what the fat man is up to. Sam runs with loud cries to where it is more advantageous to fight. Even this stupid lizard doesn't understand. She tries to throw a few poisonous spits after him. Such tricks don't work on him. Once he's in the forest, the rules of the game change. Now Sam is on his usual territory. Here you can wait as long as you like for the moment to attack. However, the demon's behavior suddenly changes. He acts like he's afraid of something. It's hard to understand what could scare him. He slowed down too much after crossing the forest line. A great moment to strike. It doesn't matter if the enemy is strong when you're no slouch either. He falls on the demon with such force that he almost breaks his vertebrae. This lizard doesn't run for very long. Today the guy will write her a long rest. Nobody said meeting Sam would be a simple warm-up. Finally, the fat man's snakes will be able to enjoy something tasty. Vile demons existed 600 years ago. Whose idea was it to call them back into the world? He notices that one of the snakes is afraid to devour the demon. There is no need to be afraid of a giant lizard, especially if it is already dead. However, it is not about fear of the monster. The pet takes the guy to a place where there might be more scary lizards. He immediately feels the terrifying atmosphere around the building. It's strange that there was no security near the large building. I need to check everything myself, since he's here. The smell of blood spreads everywhere, as if someone had been cut here. The golden silkworm leads the boy to the truck. The flying pet doesn't look like itself either. He sees the one who was once a driver much earlier, but now he definitely won't be able to start the truck. Sam clearly sees the claw marks and venom of the vile demon. He snuck in here unnoticed and killed all these workers. He may not have left any of the builders alive. Meanwhile, inside the construction site, it's complete hell. Demons and similar creatures have reigned here for a long time. Not a single person managed to notice them in time. It's as if the creatures went out hunting after a hunger strike. The worst thing is that they have made a nest here with hundreds of eggs everywhere. If the lizards continue to lay eggs, the entire city will be in danger. You can't figure this out on your own. You'll have to call for help. A few minutes later, the phone rings at headquarters. The fat man is looking for the hunting dog. He says it's something urgent. It's better for him to find out everything himself. Commander Lucas is glad that Fat Sam remembered him, but there was a bad reason for the call. He asks to go to the place immediately. There's a whole pack of 2-headed demons operating not far from his house. Poisonous creatures will soon fill the entire city. Lucas just asks to send him the coordinates. He will be there soon. It would be better if the commander hurried with this. Luckily, Lucas was the one who didn't ask to be repeated twice. The elite squad service vehicles arrived 10 minutes later. It's a pleasure to deal with such people. It's even nicer if such people have a squad of thugs in reserve. 30 fighters who were not on the mission are ready for battle. Mad Bull is currently on a mission and promised to come later. Surprisingly, one old man also decided to take part in this. The shaman seemed to have forgotten how much trouble Sam had caused him. But if it's about something important, he doesn't give a damn about past squabbles. He hopes that the fat man will not forget his kindness. To be honest, even 30 fighters might not be enough. Some people had a hard time seeing it for the first time. Two-headed lizards are not something everyone wants to meet. Even their gaze inspires wild fear. Lucas had never seen anything like it. Together with the guys, he was used to dealing only with gangsters. But today we need to show not strength but rather courage. A shaman would not come to such a place without a reason. It's strange that the old man knew about the appearance of demons in the city. The creatures have not appeared on Earth for hundreds of years. Even Sam didn't know about them until the teacher told him. The shaman admits that they were created in his school of magic. But why was it necessary to create these dangerous creatures? It's a long story, and some things need to be clarified. The founder of the school was the one who survived the demon attack. Others had to experience the full wrath of the monsters. They all died without even being able to resist. Hatred of demons became the flag of his future school. Lucas suggests simply shooting them with rifles. It's unlikely that it will work. The creatures will quickly scatter in all directions. They easily notice danger and react quickly. Such fast and toxic creatures cannot stay here. In addition, their offspring will increase their numbers tens of times. In that case, you need a good plan. Who on their team is the master of creating a good plan? The guy suggests using a magical explosion. He will draw a battle magic symbol and everything will go up in smoke. This guy always seemed like a young genius to shaman. What could be better than a big bang? Had to spend a little time on the magic drawing. His technique consisted of several magic circles. Upon entering the first circle, the master immediately becomes bloodthirsty. At the sight of blood, madness sets in, and the speed of attacks increases. The madness of the spirit belongs to the second magic circle. Every creature seems like an enemy that needs to be killed. The third magic circle simply combines the 3 circles into one. Only by combining can a triple effect be achieved. It is located in the very center and is the main one. The shaman agrees to invest his energy, but is unable to control it. He's still too young for that. However, the old man really does have plenty of energy. Today, a lot depends on the strength of the charge. It will take a long time to feed the circles while Sam is in control. He definitely won't be able to cope alone. Soon even the fighters joined in the ritual. It took too long to prepare the circles. However, this time was spent usefully. Now all magic circles are ready for action. The commander would never have seen it with his own eyes. He will have something to tell his grandchildren in his old age. Finally, the shaman throws the guy an artifact. Using the launch core makes it easier to activate magic. Without this jade sign, the guy might not be able to cope. If everything works out, the shaman will avenge the death of his friends. He vows to serve Sam for the rest of his days if the demons fall. The fat man asks to remember these words well. By the way, Hunting Dog needs to hear something. If Sam doesn't survive, Lucas is obligated to take care of his parents. He asks to throw gloomy thoughts out of his head. It feels like the fat man is not telling us something. To tell the truth, there are some things I'm a little ashamed to admit. He borrowed some money, someone will have to pay it back. But Lucas realizes that it's not about the loan at all. In response, Sam turns sharply to the side. He has already said everything that the commander needs to hear. If not him, then no one will stop the impending danger. Since death is destined for him, then so be it. A difficult but necessary choice. The captain says goodbye to him, but will wait for the fat man here. They haven't tried the new menu at Kurt's restaurant yet. Today only green bastards will try roast. The demons already sensed the approach of a hot night. Something flashed in the distance and gradually began to grow. That's right, the magical flame was fully prepared. Sam decides to set fire to the escape routes first. If anyone tries to escape, he will meet the fugitive here. However, you don't have to wait. Now demons have become an excellent target for a sniper. The difference is that the fat man's bullets are slightly larger in size. A direct hit guarantees a quick death. Now only magic matters. He loudly calls stupid mutants to his side. If there were hungry lizards there, Fat Sam was waiting for them. This call worked even better than magic. There turned out to be a lot of people who wanted to eat fatty meat. However, not everyone is destined to live until dinner today. They'll probably turn into a hearty stew all on their own. Everything is in perfect order. The seal works as it should. He had long dreamed of trying the power of the 3 seals. The shaman understands that his artifact has done its job. He instantly activated the 3 seals fusion magic. From the outside, it looked like a monstrous cataclysm. The fat man simply has to come back from there alive. If only he knew what was happening at the epicenter. Never before had Sam possessed such energy. There was so much strength that the guy was losing control over it. Finally, he sees the first visitor. The demon walked into the trap, touching the magic seal with his paw. All the individuals who had taken over the construction site were here. Today, every demon must accept death. It's hard to accept this, but it has to be done. The shaman's energy continues to feed the seal. It's time to read the words of the spell. The main thing is to do this before the monster approaches. They are catching up with him from all sides. These creatures won't be trampling the earth with their paws for much longer. They have done too much evil to wander around with impunity. Luckily, there is someone here who will send them back to hell. Good night, bastards. All the destructive energy was contained here. At first it was difficult to see anything. Only the shaman understands that this is a good sign. They need to run there immediately after the magic ends. This was probably Sam's best fight. He almost died after merging with the seal magic. A huge force could send him to the next world. Even after a great attempt, monsters flock to him. This is where their main lair is located, which is why there are so many of them. The main drawback of demons was their lack of intelligence. They attack mindlessly without understanding the plan. When the fight against your own kind begins, everything becomes clear. The magic has worked, now all that remains is to wait. The eyes of the new creature are filled with rage and bloodlust. It tears weakened demons to pieces. The guy himself is no longer able to stand on his feet. He did everything the master taught, but this is enough to rid the city of demons. A second later, he falls onto the grass and disappears into oblivion. At that very second, he sees what is hidden from the eyes. It feels like the guy is in 2 dimensions. His physical body still lies on the mountain grass, but in the mental world there is another meeting ahead. The boy is soon taken to the nearest hospital. The doctors did everything to keep him alive. I'll have to wander in oblivion a little longer. His closest friends will keep him in peace. The results of the demon blood tests are ready. Geneva asks to briefly voice them. Demon venom is 1,000 times more toxic than that of other species. It was only thanks to Sam that they were able to stop the hell. No army in the world can cope with something like this. We must thank the brave young man. But once upon a time, Geneva didn't trust him. She wants to know what the chances are of saving the guy. Tony is confident that everything will be fine. The teacher believes that this was a normal state for the fat man. He needs to be given peace and sleep. It is unknown how long it will take before awakening. It's better for them not to know in what wilds of oblivion the fat man wanders. Now he stands on the threshold of life and death. He suddenly understands what fate has been preparing him for all his life. Spiritual practices led him to one point. Now you just need to discover the truth with one touch of your finger. A second later, the entire space is illuminated by a white glow. He is ready to go back after all this time. Sam will never be the same again. Gradually, the guy begins to feel his physical body. The next second, he opens his eyes. Even Tony feels the moment his brother awakens. He was a little hasty in leaving the fat man alone. Now we can be sure that his life will be safe. At first, it was unclear how he felt. Sam asks not to burst in as if there was a fire in the hallway. Of course, he immediately found something to eat here. All the banks of glucose vitamins were emptied. What else could a person do after a coma? You have to be lenient about things like this. Tony gets it right, grabbing a bag of food. He learns that his brother was able to overcome his limit. It's not about food at all, but about Sam's magical abilities. He learned secret magic while in the world of oblivion. It turned out that each magician has 5 levels of power. He had peaked in 2 of them before. There was something Sam didn't understand until the moment the door opened. It is impossible to master the other 3 techniques separately. In order to unlock the Cataclysm technique, Sam forcibly strengthened his body, so he took it to a new level. It's like he doesn't understand how dangerous it is. He had seen the line before that he was able to overcome. In other words, the line can only be crossed by secret techniques. Forced body enhancement was one of them. He first came to know her in battle against demons. Tony recalls how he began his journey. Sam was still a child then, but already owned the seal. More than 10 years later, he becomes a real guru. It's just not clear why he called an elite squad to the mountain. To be honest, he was a little scared at that moment. It is easy to understand a person who sees demons for the first time. None of them would have dared to fight anyway. If anyone doubts, the guy can call them back. The trouble is, Sam might get hit by the 9 Moons curse again. The old man had given too much to dispel it. He completely forgot about the list that the old man gave him for the journey. The scroll contains all the ingredients that need to be collected. Now he's missing just one ingredient. It would be better if he kept quiet about the fact that they are not ready yet. The fat man reminds that a month has not passed yet. They still have time. He always leaves important things for last. Tony was never able to teach him to do everything on time. At this moment, visitors arrive. Tony is just finishing his educational work. The shaman quickly walks towards him. He remembers his promise. Now the shaman will faithfully serve the young master. For the first time, the fat man hears an oath of faithful service. Shaman has never given it to anyone yet. Lucas was also willing to serve under Sam. The old man suddenly decides to become his faithful disciple. It's funny that an old man would learn magic from a young man. However, he has already proven his superiority. There is no shame in learning from the best. Sam asks to calm down and get up from his knees. However, he seemed not to hear these words. No, that was too much. And yet there is still unfinished business. The fat man should see this for himself. This is in Commander Lucas's briefcase. Today Sam will see it with his own eyes. It's hard to believe that the rarest artifact goes to him. Seeing the golden egg, the boy orders the hammer to be brought here. However, Lucas expected a slightly different reaction. Usually they don't rush to smash a rare artifact with a hammer. I had to explain to the guys that it was just a joke. It's a pity that the artifact was not there before the fight with the demons. Although at first he asked to destroy all the eggs. That's exactly how it happened. Lucas's team came to clear the building. Inside, they met the queen of these creatures. The queen of the abominable demons does exist. A huge individual, no less than 5 meters long, protected its offspring. She attacked as soon as the guys entered. The queen had to be fed a good amount of lead. The fighters spent all their bullets to kill the creature. Then they wandered for a long time through the dark corridors of the construction site. The hunting dog was the first to notice it. The shaman seemed to know in advance that the artifact would be here. The golden egg was already waiting for its new owners. Now the fat man becomes its sole owner. So it was strange to hear about the request to bring a hammer. The baby from the egg will become Sam's new pet. For all the other eggs, Lucas put on a fire show. No one has another egg like this one. It is advisable not to eat it after hatching. The shaman suddenly has an idea. He can help the boy make the baby a spirit animal. This will take the guy to the next level. Some pets can be a little jealous, but he certainly won't regret it when the baby grows up. The abominable demon is a cross between several species. They cannot be controlled like other creatures. There is only one way to change your spirit animal. Sam is confident that his health will allow him to keep several spirit animals. You just need to find out when the baby hatches from the egg. Very soon, in about 80 short days. Sam didn't like this news. We are talking about the concentration of all the energy of demonic beings. For the sake of such power, it is worth waiting. If he gets tired of waiting, the hunting dog will destroy him. Lately, the fat man has been too often striving for destruction. After leveling up, he's not himself. Even the guy's gaze became more furious than it always was. He realizes that there is little time left to find ingredients. That same evening, a little business awaited him in the hostel. Local students are trying their best to keep up. They are all solving a problem that is already making them sick. The strongest student even picks up a sledgehammer. He hammers the last nail into the door of the stinking room. The stench from Sam's neighbor's armpits is unbearable. The fat man volunteered to solve the problem with the unpleasant smell. However, today the smell from this room is 10 times stronger. They'll be able to keep the smelly students locked up for a while. Let them sniff their own armpits. It's hard to understand how they managed to make the stench even worse. It's better not to know what the fat man has planned for this. Stephen was the first one the boy chained up. Just in case, he put on a mask before performing the procedure. The sense of the oils should help eliminate the odor. Stephen understands everything except the thick chains on his arms and legs. Sam asks not to ask stupid questions. The chains are needed to prevent the three from escaping. After 4 hours of forced bathing, everything was ready. You can take off your gas masks and be calm. Never before had the students smelled such a scent. The most surprising thing is that the smell came from the stinking Trinity. You can even fall in love by inhaling this scent from the room, but it's better to show such emotions only to girls. There is only one fat man who stinks. He spoils the whole picture with his stinking presence. The guy in the gas mask might regret what he said. He doesn't understand who actually solved the common problem. It's Sam we have to thank for this. Stephen's hug was a little excessive. As he passes the room, Guilford decides to take a little sniff. These guys are usually kept at a distance of 2 kilometers. But today was a general celebration of getting rid of the stench. For this reason, Guilford invites the hero to his place. He wants to personally express his gratitude to Sam. Even at the entrance, the guy feels a powerful aura. He understands that the conversation will not be about the smell at all. Finally, Guilford introduces himself as the real director. Mr. Gustav is only his deputy. The man decides to directly state the purpose of the invitation. He wants to know the recipe for getting rid of smelly armpits, but outsiders are forbidden to reveal all secrets. Guilford decides to do something different. He offers 2 million in exchange for the recipe. No student would refuse such an offer. The recipe was almost in his hands. As they say, it was only a question of price. In his dreams, he already has this recipe. The director, overjoyed, suggests increasing the price to 5. Now the fat man will reveal all the secrets. For a long time, Sam just lies on the table in the director's office. Long waiting gradually unsettles you. Would he really refuse 5 million? The fat man asks to add just a little bit. 8 million would be a fair price. It was painful to part with such a sum. But the director was left with no choice. At lunch, Tony asks at length about this deal. The fat man explains that his recipe is truly unique. So he decided to raise it from 2 million to 8. Money doesn't stink, Mr. Guilford, it's just business.